I'd like to call this meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to ask you to join me and stand and salute the flag and cite the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is convened in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act of New Jersey. Let the official minutes reflect that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publishing a notice in the Asbury Park Press on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024, the Star Ledger, and also forwarding same to the Toms River Times, Toms River Patch, and WOBM News on January 9th, 2024, and thereafter posting same on the Town Hall Bulletin Board for such notices and filing same with the Township Clerk. This meeting was also posted on the Township web page.
Councilman Sikosi.
Here.
Councilman Lamb.
Here.
Councilman Nivison.
Here.
Councilman Quinlisk.
Here.
Council Vice President O'Toole.
Here.
Council President Coleman.
Here.
Item 5 are the minutes from the reorganization meeting on January 1st, 2024.
Move the minutes. Make a motion to move the minutes.
Second.
A motion is made by Councilman Lamb and seconded by Councilman Nivison. Councilman Lamb?
Yes.
Councilman Nivison?
Yes.
Councilman Sikosi?
No.
Councilman Quinlisk?
Yes.
Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Council President Coleman.
Yes.
Item 7 will be an appointment to fill vacant Ward 2 council seat. The Toms River Municipal Committee nominated the following 3 names: George Loban, Joseph Duff, and Ashley Chabot.
I make a motion for George Lohman.
I'll second.
A motion for George Loman was made by Council Vice President O'Toole and seconded by Councilman Lamb. Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Councilman Lamb?
Yes.
Councilman Sikosi?
I'm going to abstain.
Councilman Nivison?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
Yes.
Council President Coleman.
Yes.
We will now have the swearing in of the newly elected Ward 2 Council Member Loebman being sworn in by his daughter Natalie Zazenkowski.
And the Constitution of the State of New Jersey. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And to the governments established in the United States. And in this state. Under the authority of the people. And that I will faithfully. Impartially. And justly. Perform all the duties of the office of Township Council. According to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Thank you, babe.
Item 9 is a resolution of the Township Council, Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, supporting the hiring of 8 additional full-time CSO EMT emergency responders and providing for additional 24/7 ambulance service. In the interests of public safety and health, especially for the elderly, infirm, and other vulnerable populations, and to ensure comprehensive and responsive ambulance service throughout the Township Council hereby supports and pledges resources for strengthening the township's emergency medical response unit through hiring 8 additional CSO EMT emergency responders and dispatching an additional ambulance for 24/7 coverage.
I'd like to call for a vote on the approval of the resolution.
I'll second.
We have first.
Oh, it's first reading.
We
I'll
have a
sec-
second?
A motion is made by Councilman Lamb and seconded by Councilman Logan. Councilman Lamb?
Just first want to thank the mayor. As we all know, as a lot of my Ward 1 constituents are in the crowd, we have an emergent need right now that we build our CSO program. We don't have a 24/7, 365-day ambulance service year-round for our beach Barrier Island residents. They've had many problems over there, and the last administration did nothing. So again, Mayor Roderick, I want to thank you for leading the charge on this. It's a difficult one, but it's got to be done, and I vote yes.
Councilman Logan?
Yes.
Councilman Sikosi?
I'm going to vote yes, but I don't know where the money's going to come from what department, from where, how they're going to juggle everything, but it's needed, so I'm voting yes.
Councilman Iveson?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
I agree that there is a need for more ambulance services, but there's also a huge cost factor to keep in mind when you hire 8 additional township employees, including benefits and pensions and everything else that goes along with it. But there also needs to be a feasibility study done before we make such a leap. There are other ways to provide this service to the Barrier Island and the rest of the town. The county has already introduced something where they plan on providing some ambulance relief over in the islands. And there's also partnerships we can do with Triborough and Silverton First Aid Squads and other avenues to do this to save the taxpayers' money. However, I'm going to vote yes for today, but contingent on getting more information before we make a permanent stance on something like this.
Council Vice President O'Toole? Council President Coleman?
Yes.
Item 10 is an ordinance of the Township Council, Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending and supplementing sections 50-3B, 50-3G, and 50-3R of the Township Code to revise the roster of positions within the Department of Law Enforcement. This is a first reading.
May I, Council President?
Yes, that's okay. Any comments? Yes, speak.
I'd like to thank the members of the council for supporting my initiative to add 8 additional emergency medical responders to the police department tonight. This will put an additional ambulance on the road 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have a very large, vulnerable senior citizen population. They can't wait 20 to 30 minutes for an ambulance. And it's not just our senior citizens. People on the island and in all parts of our community need to be able to count on a rapid response. This is a matter of life or death, and it's not an easy decision, but we've begun the process, and I want to thank the council for their support. Although the township was facing a $3.5 million shortfall this year, we're doing this without any additional cost to the township. In the coming months, there will be 2 captains retiring from the Toms River Police Department. The salaries are $242,000 a year, and the pension payment that the township is responsible for is an additional $180,000 a year. All in with health insurance, these 2 positions cost the township approximately $800,000 a year. This will not impact policing, and these 2 retirements alone will cover the cost of 8 new emergency medical officers. These are boots on the ground, and it's going to save lives. So I want to thank the council for supporting the initiative.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Yeah. There's a motion on the ordinance number 10?
Motion to move ordinance for first reading.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, the Township Clerk has read the agenda item, which is number 10, ordinance of the Township Council. And at this point, a motion to move the ordinance on first reading would be appropriate.
Motion to make bring the motion to the first reading.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A motion is made by Council Vice President O'Toole and seconded by Council President Coleman. Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Council President Coleman?
Yes.
Councilman Loebman? Yes. Councilman Sekozy?
Absolutely not.
Councilman Lamb?
Let's have some order so we can move on here, please.
I want to thank all the police officers in the room that you're here tonight, because it's an important vote. What's more important, in my eyes, and after discussing with the administration and also I've met with the chief over the past 2 years, and I want to thank also Councilman Quinsless for sending me the efficiency study from 2021. In that study, it was discussed how important that the CSO program, the police CSO program, remains in your house. It shouldn't be standalone. It shouldn't be with the OEM. It shouldn't be by itself. It should be under the police department. I've asked the mayor, in all fairness, to go to the unions and say, look, if you incentivize police officers to get their EMT certification, which is very hard to keep and maintain, would you incentivize your officers by having them supplement the CSOs for overtime and need, and especially on the Barrier Island? He said he would do so. I consulted the study tonight carefully. Thank you to Councilman Quinsless. And beyond being a standalone, being under the police department going forward, it was discussed that the technology increases with the CSO program, that you have certain tracking software, certain ability to schedule these officers. And the reason for that is, arguably, the CSOs, beyond just patrol officers, are the unsung heroes out there as well. And I don't think they get enough credit. And I think that while it's painful to sometimes hear about attrition when you lose spots at the top, captain, lieutenant, deputy chief, it's hard to hear that. However, when you only have 16 or 17 CSOs out there or less, and the mayor calls for adding 50% more, I don't know how you can deny that's not important. I don't know that you can deny when residents come to every meeting and say, we can't get a first aid call answered after 20, 30 minutes. The last administration said, too bad. The federal average is 10, 12 minutes. If you have to wait 6 more minutes, good luck. Well, the residents don't want that. So while I feel for the positions of captain and deputy chief, how they're needed in certain administrative aspects, as of this date and time, the mayor feels, and this council feels, that we don't have enough ambulances on the road. And for those reasons, and for more I can even expound upon after the meeting, I vote yes.
Councilman Iverson?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
I was hoping for the big applause that Dave got, but my vote is absolutely no. Defunding our police department.
It's not defunding our police department. That's not it. That's a mischaracterization, and you know that. It's a reallocation. It's a reallocation of personnel.
Thank you.
I asked for more road.
Time to talk.
It is my time to talk, actually.
We moved on.
You don't want me talking now, it's his time to talk.
It's your time to talk? From out there?
I'm gonna take.
Let's get back in order, please.
We are essentially defunding the police officers, trying to move that money from the first people to every call. The first people. The CSOs are not going to be the first people to every call. Taking away our officers, taking away the captains in charge of making sure that everything flows is cutting off our nose to spite our face. Anytime that 911 call is made, it's a cop that shows up first. Okay? Most
Or a CSO.
most of them do know basic life-saving skills.
Or a CSO.
Or CSO if it's called in for a medical. Now, I believe, I said it before, that we should have ambulance. I wish we can make some division between these two subjects. Do not mess with the police department. They are what keeps us strong. Now, the same report that Mr. Lamb just referred to said back in 2002 that our police department was already undermanned. That was 20,000 people ago. We were already understaffed. They called for us to have over 173 officers at that time. We're currently at 163. It doesn't sound like it's prudent that as our town grows, as social concerns change, as more handgun permits are issued, that we should be cutting the police department. Absolutely not. Find another way to fund the CSOs, and I'm for it. Thank you.
Item 11 is an ordinance of the Township Council, Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending Section 165-45B of the Township Code to eliminate the adoption fees for dogs and cats from the Toms River Animal Shelter. This is a first reading.
Any discussion? Dave?
Council President, please.
Cozy,
Okay.
please.
Is there anything else in this ordinance just to eliminate the adoption fee? Or is there any other things attached to this?
Mayor, can you address that question, please?
Well, Council President.
Actually, I
used to
think we
be
should just
answered.
ask one of the township attorneys. I think it was drafted by Mr. Merlino. Mr. Merlino, would you be able to answer that question? The answer is no, it's just the elimination of the fees, but if you would like to hear from the township attorney, that would probably be best.
Thank you.
That's correct. The only change in this ordinance before you is to eliminate the fee for the adoption of dogs and cats in the animal shelter. Apparently, there's an overabundance of them there, and this will encourage more adoption.
It is, eventually, will this be closed down and the county be taking it over?
That's a policy decision made between the mayor and council. That question I can't answer.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Can I like to call for a vote on this ordinance?
So we need a motion to adopt the ordinance on first reading would be appropriate.
Yes.
A motion to adopt the ordinance?
I'll second.
A motion is made by Council Vice President O'Toole and seconded by Councilman Lamb. Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Councilman Lamb?
Yes.
Councilman Loebman?
Yes.
Councilman Sekozy?
Yes.
Councilman Nivison?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
Yes.
Council President Coleman?
Yes.
Item 12 is an ordinance of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending and supplementing the Township Code to 1, establish the divisions of road and sanitation within Chapter 40, Department of Administration, 2, repeal Chapter 54, Department of Public Works in its entirety, and 3, place the Division of Parks, Buildings, and Grounds under the Department of Recreation within Chapter 56. This is a first reading.
I make a motion, we accept for the first reading?
Second.
A motion is made by Council Vice President O'Toole and seconded by Councilman Lamb. Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Councilman Lamb?
Yes.
Councilman Loebman?
Yes.
Councilman Sekozy?
No?
Councilman Nivison?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
Much like the attempt to defund the police department, the original version of this ordinance was hastily put together and thrown at the council as well as the public. This is a revision to make corrections to what was put together very, very poorly, and I hope that we can look at ordinance number 10 and make corrections to that as well. I will vote yes to this, but Jesus, slow down.
Council President Coleman.
Yes.
Item 13 is an ordinance of the Township Council, Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, repealing Chapter 253 of the Township Code of the Township of Toms River entitled Continued Use and Occupancy of Residential Dwellings. This is a final reading.
And I,
You have to open the public first. You have to open to the public. Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to open this to public comment. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, please. Please state your name and your address.
I don't see anybody being against this.
My name is Chuck Lang. I live at 37 Cedar Drive, Toms River. I'm a retired home inspector. And I've worked together with the building department in this town for many years. I have a question first. It says that the ordinance will be repealed in its entirety. Does that ordinance cover the department that inspects rental housing? As well as, it says, it is very confusing to me that it says continued occupancy, which sounds like your inspectors that inspect rental housing, but it could also mean transfer of real estate property. So clear that up for me first, please, so that
This-
I understand and everybody else will understand also.
This only applies, excuse me, this only repeals the prior ordinance that was adopted twice over the last 2 years with respect to the continued CCO requirement and getting such a document in order to transfer title.
Just for a transfer of real estate then?
Correct.
Thank you, Greg, appreciate that. That would indicate that your inspectors that inspect rental housing will continue to do the same job. Am I correct? There is, however, some safety issues associated with this change. First of all, a previous group of folks in your position decided that it was in the interest of public safety to put this ordinance in place. And I've seen many cases where there's improper workmanship done on homes. Homes get transferred and can leave, in fact, a safety hazard in that home if it's not properly inspected. The job of a home inspector is very clear. Their standards of practice are very clear, and I'm very familiar with them. The purpose of a home inspection is to determine the general condition of the home by a visual inspection only at the time the inspection is done. Home inspectors are not required to reflect on building codes. They are required, under their standards of practice, however, to address and assess safety issues, glaring safety issues. So you may be putting yourself in a libelous position in what you're doing in that transfer of real estate, because it's been past practice that you look at a piece of real estate before it's transferred, and now you're eliminating that. You may open yourself up to some liability that you wouldn't otherwise have. Do you have any questions about those standards?
If you like, and it's subject to the council president. Shoot, that's his-
First of all, this,
I don't hear well.
first of all, this ordinance was put into effect under the old regime. I have been the president of Holiday City for quite a number of years. And we've had a major problem with this ordinance. We've had people that have done work in their homes, maybe 3 or 4 owners prior, that didn't get a proper permit. The work was done correctly, but they were being harassed by the building department. They were being cited, and the person that was trying to sell the house was being held responsible for work that was done maybe 20 years ago. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. And there was no alleviation from this. And it cost several people quite a bundle of money to fix what somebody thought was wrong, that wound up not being wrong after all was said and done. And the building department had a lot to do with that, and they weren't listening to anything that anybody had to say. So there was a lot of wrongs with this ordinance.
Well, this township is not the only township that requires an inspection by the building department upon transfer of real estate. Most townships require that.
Right, and it's a moneymaker for the most part.
I don't think that's the major objective of it. If you want to look at it that way, that's okay. But I think safety should be the perspective here. Any more questions of me?
Have you ever been to court because of I'm sorry, am I, have you ever been to court because of a bad home inspection?
No, but I've been
Testified?
I've testified in court about construction issues and improper workmanship in the past. I spent about 9-10 years as a professional witness for construction litigation.
Thank you.
So I'm familiar with the process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Anyone else wish to comment?
And- Yes, sir, please come forward.
Paul Jeffrey, 1661 Bay Boulevard, Ortley Beach. I'm here speaking as an individual, not as an officer of Ortley Beach Voters and Taxpayers Association. I understand that the ordinance was very onerous, I heard from the real estate agents how terrible it was to get through the process. That doesn't mean that it's not needed. I live in Ortley Beach. I can tell you a neighbor a few doors down bragged to me about how as soon as he got his CO, he would convert his third floor room into his bedroom because he had all the wiring and the plumbing done behind the walls. He just needed to open up and do it himself. Little neighbor the other way bragged to me about the fact that they had put all the plumbing under the cement pad in advance so that as soon as they got their CO, they could break up the pad and install their ground floor bathroom. Ortley Beach is rampant with illegal construction. Part of it is the fault, actually, in the past as well of the township. The township records are a disaster. I still have a 12-year-old building permit open. I've tried 3 times to close it. They've come and inspected many times over the 12 years. It's still open. If I want to sell my house, God knows how long it's going to take me to find someone to finally look at my final approval and say, yeah, let's correct that in the records. So part of it is historical, but I am fearful that we are going to see a disaster. There are too many people who are converting third floor rec rooms into bedrooms. And guess who's sleeping up there? The little grandkids. There's not necessary fire egress. I don't know the situation in the northern part of the township, but I know there's been a lot of converted basements as well. They don't have fire egress. You can repair this ordinance, but you are going to have a disaster. So you need something to replace it, to be sure when a house is sold that everything done in that house was done with a legitimate permit and is safe. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak towards this ordinance? Come up forward.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Bruce Shapiro, representing New Jersey Realtors at 10 Hamilton Avenue in Trenton. I wanted to thank you for putting this ordinance forward, and I am here tonight on behalf of the Realtors to speak in support of the ordinance repealing the town's MCC UO requirement, or certificate of occupancy requirement. We strongly support your efforts to streamline and ease the home buying and selling process here in Toms River by repealing the requirement, which, as many of you know, after it took effect, led to many delays in home sales, and in some cases, home sales falling through. In addition, when the ordinance was adopted, the fees were among the highest, not just in this area, but all across New Jersey. And we were able to work with the previous council on some amendments to the ordinance to make it a little better, but we do believe this is a positive step to take this ordinance off the books. And also, we'd like to thank the mayor for, I believe, suspending the enforcement of it at the beginning of this month. By repealing the ordinance, the council will be sending a statement to the current homeowners here in Toms River, as well as those who may be looking to call the town home, that the town supports its residents, both past and present. While the ordinance will officially repeal the town's inspection requirement that took effect back in 2022, I would point out, and this might address some of the comments that you previously heard or may hear, that prospective home buyers often do have their own inspections done before they purchase a home, which can uncover many issues, and they can make a decision based on what they find, whether they want to purchase the home, negotiate for changes to it, or look at another property, whether it's here or elsewhere. By eliminating this requirement, which could be viewed as duplicative, Toms River is creating an environment where homes can be sold in a more streamlined, while still safe manner. In addition, lastly, I would point out that the requirement does not repeal one of the mandates that is in effect from the state, that a fire inspection still take place, that being the inspection for the smoke detector, carbon monoxide, and fire extinguisher. So there is still going to be some inspection done by the town, in addition to what may be done by a private home inspector. So in closing, I would ask the council to vote in favor of this ordinance to repeal the MCC URO requirement, but also, whether it's on an ordinance like this or anything else that might impact the town's real estate market or homeowners, please feel free to reach out to us as the State Association. Use us as a resource. We do work on ordinances all across New Jersey having some type of impact on real estate or home ownership. And with that, again, I ask you to vote in favor of repealing this ordinance, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Council President, I have a question for
Yes.
the gentleman. How do you feel, or what's your opinion when your fellow workers come up and they represent the buyer of a home in Toms River? And they always stated caveat emptor, caveat emptor, caveat emptor.
Beware.
How do you feel about that?
I mean,
You're representing a buyer and you're basically saying, eh, tough luck if something's wrong. It's not our fault.
I mean, there are numerous things that can be addressed when a home is being sold. One, obviously, and this is something more on the seller side, there's the property condition disclosure statement that many sellers fill out with information about the property, whether, for example, let's say there was water or mold damage, flood damage, anything about the physical condition of the property. And again, a lot of the issues that may be uncovered would be unearthed when the potential buyer has a home inspection done using a private home inspector.
Listen, well, I agree with you and Mr. Jeffries that I think the fee, I was always against the high fee. I think $50, $75 is more reasonable, but we do need something and to protect the township. You know, other towns have hold harmless agreements, you know, for the new buyers. If they find something wrong, if there was, you know, the basement was finished 20 years ago or the garage, I'm for that, okay? And I think it just has to be streamlined. But we need something simpler and more reasonable. I think the fire inspection is like $70, $75. And so, but thank you for the information.
No problem. And on the issue where, let's say, a basement was finished 20 years ago without permits and the home was sold 3 times since then without any issues, we have...
Go ahead.
We have seen towns do something where, you know, once or twice a year they hold days where you can get the permits addressed, no questions asked. That is something that can be looked at here if that is an issue in Toms River. And if this is something that is repealed tonight and down the road, like I indicated, the town is looking to do some type of inspection requirement. We'd obviously would love to work with the town on that, but we do think this is a positive step to pass this ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
Phil Brilliant, 79 Holly Tree Lane. So comment and constructive comment. First of all, the mayor has already put out, I don't remember, it's an executive order ceasing all inspections, ceasing all need for COs. I think it was January 2nd or 3rd. They came out, it was on the website, went out to all the residents. It has stopped. So why don't we stop right now? Why don't we listen and think about the fact that we have an opportunity to correct the wrongs of this ordinance, as opposed to abolishing. We heard the price is too high, okay? Councilwoman O'Toole, I heard you saying that people were in their house, they didn't know 20 years ago, 15 years ago, people had done work, and now they were being called to take care of it by the inspectors of Toms River Township. Not, right?
Not only that, but these people bought a house in good faith. Now, they are being charged for permits, inspections, all kinds of things that were done 20 or 30 years ago. You got to remember, in an adult community, I hate to say this, but there's a big turnover. I mean, houses come and go, come and go. And some people follow the letter of the law, and they do the right thing. They get the proper permits and all. Some people don't. Some things slide through the cracks, as the gentleman said before, that he was waiting for how long to close out a permit, 12 years. That's a failing of the building department as far as I'm concerned.
Your building department.
The building department.
Your building department. You are now the councilwoman.
Yeah,
we need to fix that.
Yes, I
Okay.
understand that.
We are by getting rid of this.
And
Right, no, we're not. No, all we're doing, no, we're not. All we're doing all we're doing is not uncovering the improper construction in homes, okay?
Let
And,
me,
and,
let me ask you something.
so I get 3 minutes.
When you bought your
Fine,
house,
thanks. Yes.
did you have proper walkthroughs? Did you have people come in and investigate? That usually happens with most of the
I home
housing that
inspection,
are
yes,
sold.
completely.
And usually things that are improper, that are not right, are asked to be fixed, to be modified, whatever. So this is
That
done,
you can see, and that the inspector, as Mr. Lang
for
said,
the most part, this
Yes.
is done when you buy your house.
correct.
So the owner has to take care of whatever.
But can I ask you a question? And I'll ask
Sure.
Mr. Lamb, what part of that inspection requires the inspector to go downtown to see if there's open permits? Nothing.
I
It should be
don't
relied
believe it.
upon by a professional. It's your attorney you hire. You also should have a very good realtor. There's a couple realtors in the crowd that are good at that. That's who
But-
you should, I believe you're some type of
I
inspector,
am,
right?
I am.
Okay, so
But I guess
you
what I'm
should be
saying
a
is,
professional and do
Is
that.
it a requirement
Is what a requirement?
that somebody go downtown to see open permits?
I don't
No.
believe it
Not
is, no.
believe so.
No, it's not.
Buyer beware.
And if we remember what's happened here in the past few years, open permits have been uncovered that haven't been done. Because why? Because they had to look at them, okay? Why? Because of the CO.
We're
Okay?
getting rid of that tonight, so
Well,
no
no,
more.
what I'm saying though is,
Okay.
you've already gotten rid of it.
What, I can't hear you, what?
You've already gotten rid of it. The mayor put an order, what
Yes.
I'm saying
Well,
to you
tonight's the
is,
final reading, just so you know. It's
I know, but what I'm saying though is stop right now.
Stop what?
Don't approve the final reading.
No.
Look at the ordinance and amend it
No.
to fix it.
It's-
Because what you're going to have happen is what Mr. Lang said, okay? You're going to have uninspected electrical. You're not going to have in different areas where they've built out. You know how many people you see parking in their driveway on snowy nights? You know why? Because all their garages are apartments. Okay? These are things that, yes, buyer beware. Okay? But at the same time, township beware. Open permits and improper construction is the responsibility of this township.
I disagree with that.
You enforce the law.
Sounds like you should be a
And
good
that is your
neighbor. If
building
you see your neighbor doing something wrong, why don't you call? See something, say something.
I
Don't you
don't
think?
think it's perfect.
Is that the government's job, or is
You
that
know,
your job?
You know what?
Be a good neighbor.
But that's not my job. That's your job. You
No, tonight
are
we're gonna,
here-
no, tonight we're gonna end
you
that
are
again.
here for the resident.
Tonight, we're gonna end that.
You
So-
are here for the resident.
I know,
of
we are.
Toms River.
Read the
Okay?
room, we are.
What you're doing, no, what you're doing is you're abolishing something and
Why should
eliminating.
government be involved in, why should government be involved in it? Tell me.
What,
You-
say again?
Why should government be involved?
Why should
Nobody's
gov-
asking me questions.
Because, yeah, I mean, this,
Yeah, why-
basically, why?
Why?
Because this is an inspection of your code, okay? When the home inspectors, and I could ask Chuck, Mr. Lang, does he go for code inspections, or are you looking for safety and everything like that? Okay? This is a town that enforces code. This council enforces code. If there's a problem with the building department, fix it.
We are.
Again, I'm saying that what you have in the books is crazy. I agree.
Right.
It's gone.
The size
But-
of the letters of your house, garbage cans have to be the correct garbage cans. There can't be a crack in your sidewalk. That's what they're failing people for. Are you aware of that, or no?
I'm hearing you're failing people for rooms that were built.
No, no,
that
no,
were-
no.
I just
They're
heard
failing
that.
more, well, I'm telling you what they're failing people for. For wrong numbers in your house, wrong size numbers,
Okay.
wrong garbage cans, you don't have
But
the
is it
right
a
ones.
requirement? Is the
Yes,
requirement of
it's in the
your
code. It is.
It's in the code.
Well, we're getting rid of it tonight, again.
No.
It's working
But I
out.
think you're also failing people for improper construction, electrical, egress. Yes, it is.
Excuse me, I think we're rehashing the same thing over and
Well, I'm
over
gonna-
and
yeah.
over again,
I-
so
what
we
I'm
need to come
asking
to
you
a point and make a
My point
decision,
is, what I
okay?
started with, it's already been stopped. It's over. You have the opportunity to amend it as opposed to abolish it, okay? Take that opportunity tonight and work on it better. Towns all around us can make it work. Why can't this town? That's what I don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Anybody else? Yes, sir, please. Come forward.
It's a female.
Oh, is it a woman? I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. There you go.
Pat Klaslow, Ortley Beach. One of the things Justin, you said, if you see something illegal, report it, okay? And people would do that. However, they've changed the rules that if you report it, you cannot report it anonymously. The problem is, I'm still gonna be living there, and I'm gonna have a neighbor that's gonna be pissed off at me. And as Paul said, there's third floors going up. I have a neighbor that has a third floor, it's for storage. But you put a deck there. Does your storage need to look out at the bay? There's so much illegal going on that something's got to be done. You have to write an ordinance to catch it. Now, the other thing about, oh, something was done 20 years ago. And if it's a problem that could cause something to happen, at what point do you get to the place and say, everything's up to code? Because then it's going to be 30 years, then it's going to be 40 years, then it's going to be 50 years. So I'm not saying that you do away with it, but you may want to look at revising it so that we can get the entire town in line with the codes. You know, when they did the reevaluations, people that had third floors and stuff, or put an extra room in or something, they're like, no, don't come in. What they should do is when you have an inspection or whatever come in, if there's a third floor and they don't let you in, you say, okay, because it's being taxed right now as an attic. They're finishing it off and they're getting extra living space that's not being taxed, which is affecting every other person in town that are following the rules. So I'm losing money because somebody wants to put something illegal there, because they're getting more space now than before. So that's all I have to say. Just look at something that we can do to get things in line. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Ma'am, I'm sorry. It's hard to see back there. Yeah, if you can pull the mic down a little bit. No.
You can take it out also. Just pull it out. There you go.
Okay, Julie Adamek, 69 Cedar Grove Road, Toms River. I just want to let the council know that I think it's a very foolish step, very short-sighted on your part to repeal this ordinance. There, like the other members of the audience have said, there's a lot of illegal work that's been done in Toms River. People that have not bothered to get permits, people that have not bothered to use legal contractors, and, things that are dangerous. Just think back to that young teen that got electrocuted at that dock where that the electric wires had disintegrated and she got electrocuted and died. There was people in Beechwood where they had an illegal apartment and the person died in a fire because there was no egress from that basement fire. And that was just a few years ago, within the last 5 years. So as much illegal work that's being done, and if you repeal this, that's going to mean that all the people that like to do illegal work, that don't want to follow the rules, that don't want to pay $75 to get a permit or to have their work inspected, they're all going to flock to Toms River because the other towns nearby are requiring this CO. So I think it's detrimental to the town, and like I said, it's very, very short-sighted on your part. Add one more thing. I personally think that the other reason I think this is short-sighted is because I sold a house 3 years ago. So I had my experiences with real estate attorneys and realtors. There's good ones out there, there's bad ones in every single field. And as far as home inspections are not mandatory. So you keep saying that the owner can get a potential buyer can get a home inspection. It's not mandatory. So there can be a blatant fire hazard that new person walks into. So like I said, you're just endangering the public with this.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor Roderick and members of the council. My name is Mary Muziali. I am representing Monmouth Ocean Regional Realtors. Our address is 1144 Hooper Avenue. I'm here to speak in support of the ordinance before you tonight, repealing the MCCUO requirement here in Toms River. On behalf of Monmouth Ocean Regional Realtors, I'd like to first thank you, Mayor Roderick, for suspending enforcement of the MCCUO requirements until this ordinance can be formally adopted. As you know, the ordinance, while it may have been well intentioned, presented many challenges and unintended consequences for those buying and selling homes in Toms River. When the MCCUO requirements first took effect in 2022, as you know, there was much confusion surrounding the enforcement of the ordinance, and many of the requirements either delayed for a substantial amount of time or led to home sales falling through in Toms River. In addition, fees to obtain an MCCUO were much higher, not just than for other towns in Ocean County area, but also for towns all over the state of New Jersey. Because of the unintended consequences associated with requirements, in the original MCCUO ordinance, the council made several amendments in the later part of 2022 to try to ease some requirements. While we were supportive of these changes, we also believe it is prudent that the council move forward tonight with the repeal of the MCCUO requirements here in Toms River. We would like to point out, even if the town moves forward with repealing this ordinance, homes being sold here in Toms River still likely will be inspected at the request of the buyer, who often has a home inspection done prior to purchasing the home. So they're aware of any potential issues with a home before they buy it. In addition, homes still have to obtain the state-mandated fire inspection. Again, on behalf of Monmouth Ocean Regional Realtors, I would like to thank you for considering the consideration of this ordinance tonight. Mayor Roderick, for suspending the MCCUO requirements, and urge you to vote yes on this ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no hands, I'll take a motion.
I'd like to,
I'm sorry.
like to say a few things.
Sure.
For anyone who thinks we're just going to turn a blind eye to illegal construction and anything that's been done illegally, we're going to be working on a task force, an illegal construction task force. So any of these safety issues, we're going to try and address those. But the previous administration, it was a money grab, and we all know it. Safety might have been in there somewhere. So we're not just turning a blind eye to safety and illegal construction, for anybody who might be thinking that. So we're going to take a long, hard look at that.
Motion to close public comment.
I'd like to take a motion to close public comment on this ordinance.
I'll make the motion.
You have a second?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 What's council's pleasure on the ordinance?
I'm sorry.
What's the council's pleasure on the ordinance?
What's the council's pleasure on the ordinance? Anybody?
Is there a motion to adopt?
I make a motion to adopt.
Council President, to table it.
Second the motion to table this ordinance repeal.
Can we have a vote on that, please, to table?
A motion to table this ordinance was made by Councilman Sekozy and seconded by Councilman Quinlisk.
Especially in lieu of what Mr. Niveson just brought to our attention, because killing this ordinance without putting something in place is going to be difficult to do ahead of time. I think correcting the wrongs of this are more important than killing it. As far as it being a money grab, I'm sick and tired of hearing that. If anybody has any clue what it costs to put employees in place in Toms River or anywhere, this is definitely not a money grab. It's
You
not
think
a
the
money
fee's reasonable?
It's not a
Jim?
money maker for the town.
It's reasonable.
It's not about money, it's about safety. And Officer Lamb, the size of the numbers on your house are important so that we can identify it when we pull up for an emergency, just so you know.
There is a motion to table the ordinance. Again, the motion was made by Councilman Sekozy and seconded by Councilman Quinlisk. Councilman Sekozy?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
Hell yes.
Councilman Loebman?
No.
Councilman Lamb?
No.
Councilman Niveson?
No.
Council Vice President O'Toole?
No.
Council President Coleman?
No.
Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Sorry, who made the second?
Tom second.
A motion to adopt the ordinance was made by Councilman Lamb and seconded by Councilman Nivison. Councilman Lamb?
First off, I just want to say I'm a believer in small government. I think I said that a few times since I've been on council. This ordinance was overreach, extreme overreach. And Jim, yes, you should have the right size numbers on your house. Do you know how big they should be?
4 inches.
Is it 4 exactly? Well, the idea is that there's people getting failed for it, and they're getting failed for cracks in the sidewalk. They're getting failed for, I mean, we got to talk about the rental CO next. There's people getting failed for having worn out carpets, holes in their screens. I mean, these are issues that have to be resolved. So we got to stop government overreach, and I think the mayor is going to lead that charge. And arguably, even though I heard both sides speak, I think, again, I listen to both sides about the issue. I, though, believe that the township is possibly at risk of exposure of lawsuits by having this in place. And I do believe that. I want to thank Mayor Roderick and those council members that, again, agreed to pull this because this was a money grab. $300 plus a fire inspection of $75 is a money grab, Jim. So for those reasons, we've been fighting this for over 18 months. I vote yes.
Councilman Nivison?
Yes.
Councilman Loban?
Yes.
Councilman Sikosi?
No, of course, but I feel so strongly that we need something in place, streamline the fee, $50 to $75, no reinspection fees, but we do need something, okay? It's not for the good people, it's for the people who take advantage of it. So I think it's going to come around and get us, so I vote no.
Councilman Quinlist?
I still say no. You're diminishing the quality of, I don't want to say it that way, but you're diminishing the value of the properties in Toms River. If you've got this COO ordinance and a buyer presents it to the seller knows they're getting a good product. They don't have to question all this stuff, whether the house is safe or whether the house has legal rooms, whether they're paying taxes on a room that doesn't exist or not. It's a matter of safety on top of everything else. And I do want to point out that the biggest opponent to this ordinance was Kim Bell, a realtor for Remax, who, by the way, was number 3 in volume from Remax and number 1 in overall units sold. So she did a great job. So I don't understand how it hurt the real estate industry at all. Thank you. No.
Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Council President Coleman?
Yes, and I'd like to just say my experience with this. I have friends who've been trying to sell a house now for several years and told me some of the issues that they've had to address, the downpipe on their sink drain, changing all the GFIs, even though the house was protected by GFIs for many years. My house is protected by GFIs, not the most current ones, but they work just fine because when I get a rainstorm, it knocks out the GFI, so they're working just fine. It was some of the silly things that people were failed for, and then when they made the correction, the inspector would come back and approve the correction and hit them with another fee. So I think a lot of the residents are fed up because they think some of the things that were pointed out and failed them were unfair and unjust. Therefore, I vote yes.
We'll now move to the consent agenda. All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired on any item, that item will be considered separately.
Do any members of the council wish to have any of the resolutions discussed further and pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, at this time, I'd like to have the public have a chance to address any of the resolutions. Yes, sir, come right up.
Good evening. Paul Williams, Broad Street, Toms River. Item A. Now, I don't know if you want to do the comment now, or do you want to go through it and do your vote first?
It's up to the council president. He asked for comments, so.
You may do the comment now, sir.
Thanks, sir. With regard to item A, the resolution of the township appointing Laura Picuro as Municipal Alliance Coordinator for this fiscal year. just curious, and it's a very brief question. Do any of you know what a municipal alliance coordinator does?
Say that again?
Do any of you know what a municipal alliance coordinator does?
I think she has other duties in with that.
Not exactly.
Senior citizen.
No. So I'll enlighten you a little bit on something that you're about to vote on that you have not been informed about. A municipal alliance coordinator is something that's created by the state for every county in New Jersey, for every municipality in New Jersey, to have a municipal alliance coordinator that is supposed to, in theory and in writing, help to address alcoholism and drug abuse. In this particular area, it's a pretty significant issue. And I almost want to be surprised that nobody knew what a municipal alliance coordinator does, particularly from our council. But nonetheless, there's funding attached to it. And if you don't have a coordinator, you lose that funding. So, I'm not opposed to this person being appointed to that position, but I want to urge you and urge all of you, and the public as well, to hold these people's feet to the fire. Because the previous person, who was the coordinator, it's my understanding, did practically nothing in terms of what that position and what the funding was intended for as the municipal alliance coordinator. And that's no particular knock on that previous person, because I would venture a significant bet that the person before that person likewise didn't do it. It's a political patronage job, typically. I urge you and I urge the public to hold this person's feet to the fire. Addiction, substance abuse, it's no secret. We all know it's a significant issue. It's a significant issue for me particularly, and many people are aware of this. Some of our new council members aren't aware of this. I'm a formerly incarcerated person. By the time I was 21, I had 3 armed robberies. My record could probably fill a filing cabinet. And that's no brag, that's no flex, it's just the facts. I've served a total of 17 years in New Jersey state prisons through 2 different prison terms. Probably a couple years in jail, on and off. It wasn't about drugs or alcohol, though. I had life management issues. I'm state raised, foster homes, residential placements as a juvenile. And by the time I was 18, I had gotten arrested. I had plans to go into the United States Marine Corps. But that arrest squashed those dreams of mine to go into the Marine Corps. But through my time, almost every person that I've encountered in jail and prison had some form or another of an issue with drug and alcohol. The last time I was in prison was in 2011. And I've had bumps and bruises along the way. But I haven't resorted back to the life of crime. And in 2012, I incorporated a nonprofit to assist other formerly incarcerated men and women who were like me, that were returning back to the community and on a very fundamental level needed a guiding hand. And through those men and women that I've encountered since then, they also have had issues with either drugs or alcohol. But it's interesting, you can look in almost any direction in this area and spit and hit some kind of drug treatment or some kind of nonprofit that's supposed to be about addressing this issue. The Municipal Alliance Coordinator is also supposed to be about addressing that issue. We are failing that population of our citizens, our fellow citizens. For many of us, it's our family members. We're failing them by an inept effort to address and resolve these issues. But nonetheless, I hope that all of you will heed my warning, my urgency to hold our Municipal Alliance Coordinator, who's the person that you have the closest contact with, to hold that person's feet to the fire and ensure that they do the things that by statute and by state policy they are supposed to be doing in order to maintain that funding, other than maintaining a position. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, I would just wanted to let you know, there's no salary attached. Ms. Picuro, she's going to be heading senior services here. We brought her over from the county. She does a fantastic job. She worked for the town once before for senior services. She was able to work miracles and get people their heat back on, and she ran around doing good things for people every single day. And I'm confident if there's anyone that can ensure that the grant monies are spent correctly, it will be Ms. Picuro. And again, it's not a patronage position. I had no personal friendship or anything, or no one else here with Ms. Picuro. She's just a talented person that we hired to do a much-needed job.
Through the council president, if I could touch on that for a moment. Touch on that.
I would like to
Just be mindful.
I would like to add something to that.
Go ahead.
I know this woman for a number of years, and in my community, she worked miracles, again, with people who couldn't afford heat, but she got them heat. Whatever the circumstances were, whether it was ill health, whether it was the housing, whatever, she was there, she did it. She has a track record that very few people can beat. And is responsible. Totally.
So here's what I want to touch on, just very briefly, because I know my time is up. Both of you spoke on two things with regard to this person that have nothing to do with the responsibilities of the Municipal Alliance Coordinator. However, as the department that she is going to head up, that's great. Those things, those are great. She seems to hold that. But understand something, and I'm sure some of you may know this, when it comes to grants, if her energies, she has to keep a timesheet in order to get paid and reimbursed, okay? In order to make, even if it's not a salary, there's a grant attached to that. And she has to keep a timesheet of where she's going with this. And if her timesheet shows that she's working 120 hours between her municipal job and this grant-funded item, there might be an issue for the township. So again, hold this person accountable. If they are working in a municipal position, great, do that. I can't speak against someone who's helping people get their heat turned on. I can't speak on that. I'm concerned with anyone who occupies the position, salaried or not, that they are not doing the fundamentals of what that grant requires of them to do for the benefit of our community as well as the people who are suffering with substance abuse.
Well,
Excuse me, let me interrupt.
Can I
please.
just, we would certainly be interested in your help, Mr. Williams, and I'm sure
You got it.
Curo would be willing.
You certainly have my number, Mr.
And I'm
Roderick.
sure she would be willing to accept your help. And if anybody has the drive to make sure that this is done correctly, working for this township right now, it's Ms. Picuro. And again, it's.
I don't doubt it. Thank you.
total- Thank you.
Anyone else have any items on the consent agenda?
Any other discussion on any of the resolutions in the consent agenda? I'd like to have a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
A motion is made by Council Vice President O'Toole and seconded by Councilman Quinlisk. Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
Yes.
Councilman Loebman?
Yes.
Councilman Sikosi?
I consent to A, B, and C, and I guess I can't question D. I'll vote yes.
Councilman Lamb?
Yes.
Councilman Nivison?
Yes.
Council President Coleman?
Yes.
Moving to the approval of the bills. Take a motion to move the bills.
Do we have a motion to move the bills?
Second. Oops, sorry.
Was there a
For
first?
motion? Councilwoman O'Toole motioned it, Councilman Quinlisk seconded it.
A motion is made by Council Vice President O'Toole and seconded by Councilman Quinlisk. Council Vice President O'Toole?
Yes.
Councilman Quinlisk?
Yes, I have to abstain from all bills payable to Remington Vernick and to Tech Elevator, yes to the balance.
Councilman Loebman?
Yes.
Councilman Sikosi?
Yes.
Councilman Lamb?
You abstained from all bills payable to Borough of Lavalette, and bill number 24-00186, magistrate salaries, yes to the balance.
Councilman Nivison?
Yes.
Council President Coleman?
Yes.
Elected officials' comments.
Okay, we'll start off with Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Chair. First off, I want to thank Chief Little, Deputy Chief I see in the back, and all the fine members of the Toms River Police Department. My own personal opinion, you are the finest police department in the state of New Jersey and perhaps the nation. This was a difficult vote, and it'll be a difficult vote on the next meeting, and I'm willing to meet with anybody to talk about my feelings on how the CSO program is important to this administration, to this council. And again, just rehashing what I said briefly before, in order to supplement the police department's CSO division, a right balance has to be struck with certain administrative titles. And I believe that this ordinance can achieve that. The CSO program arguably should have been worked on a decade ago, or at least in this last administration. Now, I give the mayor credit for taking this on as fast as he is because he realizes there's a need. We sit here every meeting, every month with countless residents who call me that live on the beach, that live in Green Island, live off Fisher Boulevard, live in Guilford Park, my neighborhood, where they have to wait 15, 20 minutes for an ambulance. It's unacceptable. So by, again, supplementing the CSO program by hiring 8 police CSOs, we're creating a situation we're going to hopefully protect our residents and protect them right now, and we need that. Now, I look forward to Chief Little working with the mayor and administration in hiring the most qualified CSOs that we can and keeping it inside the police department bubble. I've also asked the mayor to begin looking into the near future, prior to the summer season, to acquiring at least an ambulance, more emergency equipment like the Lucas chest compression device, and more AEDs at our township properties, in addition to more personnel. Also, though, I told the mayor there's got to be some caution in the fact that if we do hit a certain milestone with the CSO program, to revisit these titles again and to make sure that there's a reallocation of those personnel adequately that you need, whether it's now, in a few months, or in the coming years. I know, Chief, that I'm here for the next 2 years, and I won't let you down with that.
Okay, thank you.
Nope, one more thing. I just want to thank the mayor, too, for the weather event we had the other day. I believe the Public Works was excellent. They were out there. I believe the mayor tomorrow. I also want to thank the new BA, Scott Torella, for jumping on the garbage collection tomorrow. I believe that if you have garbage coming tomorrow, it'll be out an hour early. That was on the website. So make sure you get your cans out early. And again, I know the mayor's jumping all over tomorrow because we're having a major event tomorrow. And I look forward to, again, seeing how quickly he's getting his crews out there. And again, I thank you for that. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quinzel.
Again, I think I understand the CSO program falls under the police department, but I think we're making a grave mistake transferring or sacrificing our police officers for the CSO officers. I also want to point out a couple of discrepancies and conversations I've had with the mayor and what I've heard here tonight. Last night at our agenda meeting, the mayor told me that he had the support of both unions to cut these police officers. And then yet today I have a letter from each one of those 2 unions saying to the contrary. And then somebody else brought up the subject of, are we going to do anything with rental CSO or rental COs? And he said no, just tonight. And then Mr. Roderick pointed out that he had conversations that they are going to do something. He's devaluing our town. He's devaluing our police department. We're going to be rolling more like Washington State when we have bad rental units and low income, and nobody's checking slumlords, and nobody's checking we're heading down the wrong path. So I ask everybody to be vigilant in supporting the police department. Make the mayor do his research, his homework. I'm all for finding more ambulances, more ambulance drivers, more EMTs, but find another way to do it. Cutting the police is not it. Keep our town strong, keep our town safe, and keep it beautiful. That's what I ran on 2 years ago. That's what I'm fighting for today. Thank you.
Mr. Nivsen.
Just like to say one thing. I've never met a man who did more research than this man right here. before he brings up an issue, okay? We're all for the police department. We're not taking patrolmen away. From what I understand, these are two people who are retiring. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Logan?
I guess I'd start off by, I've been living in Toms River, Dover Township originally since the 70s, early 70s. I've worked through almost every basic community in town. I've lived in 3 or 4 different communities. I've raised all 5 of my children, and now 3 of my grandchildren are all in Toms River schools, all successful, good people. So the town itself is just the best that I could ever imagine it being. It just is that way. And I have 3/4 of my family, the younger members of our family are police officers in one place or another, state troopers, local police, municipality. It's just part of life is that we protect the police, and I absolutely do intend to do that. I have a lot of time in this town, and I tend to be here and do the best I can. All of us in this room have somebody, know somebody who's been drug addicted or impacted by it, and myself as well. I have a younger brother who's been in jail for a long time, and it's because of the drugs. And I would do anything for anybody to help in that area for the drug addictions and the community, for sure. I've known Dan for the better part of 6 or 7 years. Came to me and asked me for my vote. I said yes after talking to him 2-3 hours in my room, and came into the house and we sat and talked, and I said, well, it's the wrong party, but makes sense. I liked what he said and I supported him. He got elected. Then a couple months later, a year later, I guess he realized that he was in the wrong party and he switched. That doesn't make him a bad guy. It just means that he got, as he was going along, he realized that he was in the wrong spot. But I've always admired him. He's always had more to say than anybody else, and usually 95% of the time I agree with him. That's why I'm here tonight. I offered to take his seat for 1 year. I have no intentions of running for the next term. I'm here now as a friend to the community as well as to my friend Dan. I will do everything I can the right way, but it's going to be what I think is the right thing for the community. I've been here a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chikosy?
You picked a great night to start in the hot seat.
Believe me, it's not lost on me.
All right. I feel for you. Okay. I don't even know where the hell to start. You know, it's just these last 2 weeks have been something to me. And I do not like politics. I want no career in this, and it's ugly. There's all backstabbing, deals behind the scenes. It's nuts. It's bad. And I appreciate the phone calls this week and from everybody. And I mentioned it in the past. I don't like to get phone calls from people in town. Not the residents, not my constituents, but from other people. I just don't do business that way. So I want to talk here before the meetings, concentrate on the agendas, and go from there. And I did want to say last week, I want to thank our professionals that went to the Ocean County Commissioners Reward. I don't see Craig here, but almost every mayor in Ocean County, council people were at that meeting, and they talked about a lot of things. You know, the 60% of Ocean County land is undevelopable. Over 60% can't be touched. It's owned by townships, the state, the county, and the feds. So, and they talked about the 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, the population, the growth, the building, and everything. And it was very interesting. Ocean County is, including in our town, but we was #1 in recycling in the state. And we have I live at the Public Works Department. I'm there 2-3 times a week with leaves, branches, and stuff, from my house. And the guys, they do a wonderful job there, everybody. Plowing the snow, it's hard work, and I love our police department. I can't tell you how many times they helped me personally with my kids, and a gigantic raccoon in my house at 3:30 in the morning that came down the chimney. They were there in less than 5 minutes. 2 police officers, 2 cars. So I'll just do my best. I'll try to work with everybody, but I want to state my opinion and how I feel. And my ward is Ward 4 down here. And, every ward has different problems, has different needs than other wards in Ortley Beach. And Ortley Beach, if you want to succeed, I'll help you. Okay, you can make your own town. And I'm saying it in a kind way, in the right way, okay? So, and I'm afraid of the way the town's going now. And so thank you. God bless everybody. God bless Tom's River.
Mrs. O'Toole.
I really wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but I am going to say something about Laura Pecuro. As I've said before, I've known her a number of years. She did work out of the senior center a number of years ago, and then she went to the county. I have never met a person with so much compassion or empathy in my life when it comes to people. I've never heard her use the word no, or I can't, or I won't. She's always been right there, and 9 times out of 10, she prevails. And she does that because she's dedicated. She loves her work, and she loved the senior center. And I think that she will bring it back from the doldrums that has attacked it for the last several years, and quite frankly, the mismanagement. She's already looked into different ways for funding and grants and whatnot. And on top of all of that, she's one of the most honest people that I have ever met. And I think that she will be a shining emblem for this town when it comes to us seniors, because we have become somewhat of the forgotten people. We have a government today that wishes us gone because we use all the resources. They don't look to us for the lore, the learning, the experiences. The young people don't come to us anymore to ask for advice. They don't look at our experiences, but she does. And there's a few other people like her. And I think the town will do very well. And Dan will make an excellent mayor. And he will do that because he truly, really cares. And that's the commodity that's been missing. Thank you.
I'll be very brief. My last job was principal in the vocational school district, specifically at Toms River. I had to walk that thin line sometimes between teachers, parents, students, administrators, but I always voted and took charge of what I thought in my heart was in the best interest of the largest group of people, and I will continue to do that. And I know it's hard because sometimes you become very unpopular, but I'm going to vote from my heart. I love Toms River. I've been here for 27 years, and I want to see Toms River prosper, and I want to see everybody to be as happy as we can be. I know there's going to be some dissension, that's just public. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to vote from the heart. Nobody owns me, and I don't owe anybody. And that's the way I'm going to run this council, okay? At this time, I'd like to open the meeting for, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to slight
Thank
you
you,
there.
Council President. No, it's okay.
You know, I'm still new to the job, so just
You're
bear
doing
with
a
me,
great
okay?
job. You're doing a great job. It was sort of lost in the shuffle, but I'd like to congratulate George Loebman. He's been a steadfast advocate of the Toms River taxpayer and a strong opponent of overdevelopment. We first ran together back in 2019. He's a good man, a proud father, and a committed public servant. The taxpayers of Toms River now have another advocate. Councilman Loebman, on behalf of the taxpayers of Toms River, I want to thank you for volunteering to serve. Congratulations, sir. I'd also like to take a minute to talk about the where we're at with the animal shelter and what we're doing. The shelter is currently at full capacity, with many animals being with us for over a year. Tonight, we've begun the process of eliminating all the adoption fees at the shelter, and if legally feasible, I will sign an executive order tomorrow to stop collection immediately. We are also working to shift the schedule around so we can be open during the evening until 7 o'clock on a few nights and opened on the weekends as well. It's our goal to place every eligible animal in a loving home. In addition to changing the schedule and eliminating the fees, I'm asking members of the press to please help us with the task by covering this story and featuring our animals if possible. Being cooped up in a cage for over a year is torturous for an animal. Also, I want to thank the council for repealing the CO. It caused people months of aggravation and thousands upon thousands of dollars. I know Councilman Sikosi said he believed that people were taking advantage of the system. I know there was an elderly woman, she was in her 80s. Her husband had put in a small concrete patio for a picnic table and a barbecue grill, and she wasn't able to sell her house without either removing it or getting a permit, and she was crying, and she was 80 years old. There's no reason to do that to people. People were failed for beetles in trees. I mean, these are not people taking advantage of the system. These are people who had the system taking advantage of them. So, again, thank you to the council for repealing that onerous ordinance, and I have nothing further for this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this time I'd like to open the meeting to any additional public comments. Sir, I'll get to you in a minute, Mr. Williams, okay, but let this gentleman go first.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, guys back there as well. Now, my name is Carlos Amensar. I live in Winningham. Now, today I got 3 different topics I want to start. The first one is we do need more paramedics out there, more EMT. Why? Because I've been calling 911 at least twice or 5 times a month when I be finding people outside. The first responder is usually an officer, and then, you know, the EMT. So I agree with the mayor. We do need this so we can cover every angle. Now, we do have to find a way to make a police officer happy as well. We have the opportunity this year to make a lot of changes where we all win. The real estate, I agree with that. I'm a builder. I've been going through a lot of headaches. I believe the realtors should be held accountable to get an inspection for their sellers. Make sure that they hold their sellers or their buyer accountable, so that there's no headaches in their home. Now, my main concern is, I live in Winningham. I see most of these guys. I see the bad and the good in my community. We do need the EMT, but we need them, because without them, in my community where I live, it's chaos. I would love to sit down with you guys personally and bring a business where I will guarantee out of my paycheck that commission that you guys losing for them, I would put it back into their pocket. Because guys, like I said to you guys in the first meeting, I love it that you guys don't get along. Why? Because that means we're gonna make the right choices, and we're gonna hold each one accountable. I like that. But we gotta find a way to make sure we all kind of agree in an angle, and it's possible. Mayor, I do believe that you got a hidden team. You got a great team right here. So I know we can make this happen, and in 8 months we can come back, and I guarantee you, Chief, you will be proud, because we can make this happen, guys. I'm gonna be going this in 2 weeks out in a tour around the United States, and when I come back, if I can sit down with you guys, I promise you, our revenues, the taxes that you guys need for our school system, for our elderly people, for our females, because I live in an area where I see most of our females got 2 jobs, and nobody's taking care of the kids. I was part of that system. I'm that special ed. So we have an opportunity where we can make our town great and fix every little headache. Let's stop blaming the previous administration. Let's just fix all those headaches so we can make history as the best team the Township ever had. So please, guys, once again, thank you for everything. Keep delegating, because that's the only way we're gonna get to the finish line. But let's keep everything, everyone happy, especially those guys right there. Because you see, I'm the troublemaker, they run after me, but I'm here because they need our help as well. Thank you, Mayor, once again.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you again, Council President. Paul Williams, Broad Street, Toms River. There's some irony in, hell, there's a lot of irony in some things that I'm about to say. Most of you heard me earlier when I told you that I was a formerly incarcerated person who had spent 17 years in New Jersey state prisons, several years in jail, had 3 armed robberies by the time I was 21, and a host of other property crimes predominantly. The irony is that I was moved mostly to come here tonight and to make some comment because of the ordinance that frankly was quite vague. In fact, it was absolutely vague. This council voted on an ordinance to amend and supplement an ordinance that will significantly impact our police department, without any specification of what that amendment and supplementation will be. You have left the public to flail about what it means and what it's going to be. You have disabled the public from being able to come here and give you intelligent, unemotional comment on the ordinance that you're going to look at again in a couple of weeks. If you look carefully at the ordinance, it specifies 3 sections that pertain to our police department. But the only way you know what those 3 sections are is if you go and actually read the code. I had a conversation with Mayor Roderick recently, and even he was confused how I knew what those codes were. Thought that I had some inside information. No, because in addition to being a formerly incarcerated person with an extensive record, I'm a badass paralegal. And I say that with my chest poked out. I'm really good at what I do. And so I read the code that pertains to those sections. And so I understand that you're going to amend and supplement provisions that pertain to positions within the police department. One of them is for captains. Another one is for police officers. And a third one is is for the confidential media specialist. Now, of all those positions, there's only one position for a social media specialist. I'll come back to that. We're left to hear what we hear today about what you mean as far as captains. We're left to hear what we hear today about what you mean as far as what you're going to do to the line officers, the police officers. We don't know this. We can't speak on it intelligently. I can only speak on what I hear. And candidly, that might be why this room is packed for public comment more than I've seen in quite a few years. As much as I want to support our new mayor and the new council members, this made it very challenging for me. It put me in a very precarious and awkward and uncomfortable, occasionally uncomfortable position where me of all people feel the need to come here and speak on behalf of a police department. I'm very objective, and I speak truth to power with no equivocations. And sometimes that includes police departments. I'm very much in support of our Constitution. I want myself and other civilians to be left alone unless there's a real need for us to be interfered with, particularly from a law enforcement perspective. So I'm no cheerleader for any police department, no law enforcement agency. I am not a cheerleader. But for me, I tell you that this ordinance concerns me. It concerns me. And I hope that we have more conversations, and I hope to enlighten some of our new council members. I've had some conversations with our mayor, but I hope to have some conversations with our new council members so that you know who I am and where I'm coming from and what my concerns are as you go into the next council meeting to address that ordinance.
Yes, ma'am, come forward, please.
Dana Tormolin, Messenger Street, Toms River. I'm here tonight in regards to the cuts the mayor intends to make regarding our police department. On January 1st, during the reorganization meeting, Mayor Roderick stated, and I quote, "Our residents want safe streets, good schools, and low taxes." So let's go right to the safe streets that he spoke of. Our township has been in the midst of rising car thefts and break-ins now for approximately a year. On January 1st, he also stated that he was going to rid the township of certain jobs he felt were not necessary, and stated that this would pertain to confidential employees, not rank and file. Yet here we are. Mayor Roderick is looking to decimate, was the word I was told to use, decimate our police department. He is making changes not to do what's right for the best of the township and the residents, some of those who voted for this Republican mayor, but to actually hand jobs to friends and acquaintances. So ultimately, he is not ridding the township of confidential employees, but instead providing himself with his own. He wants you to believe that the men and women, some in the administrative positions especially, are not as well educated as he is and doesn't deserve their pay. I'm not sure if the mayor is aware, but for an officer to rise up the rank and file, they spend not only countless hours studying for mandatory tests needed to be promoted, but they also continue their college education, earning master's degrees and such. To be fair, he also believes our teachers make too much money, and some of them also have multiple degrees. He's looking to cost people their livelihoods, but for 6 years on the council and working as a public school teacher, he's collected health benefits paid for by the residents of Toms River. So back to our police department. A town the size of Toms River, as stated earlier, according to studies going back as far as the early 2000s, needs more officers. This mayor is not only looking to decrease the amount of officers, but he'd also like to implement a hiring freeze. He's voted no repeatedly on the police budgets, yet he has assured the residents of the Barrier Island that they would get more first responders. But how is that possible with less officers and less working equipment? So I say this to the council. Are the mayor's personal vendettas worth not only the loss of well-educated, well-trained police officers, but more importantly, the safety of the residents of this ever-growing town and its growing crime rate. I know some of you have negative feelings toward the police, so Ms. O'Toole, I'm going to state this to you. Are you willing to jeopardize the safety of your neighbors by having less police? Are you even listening? Defund the police was a Democratic war cry just 3 years ago. So it seems very interesting to me, and I'm sure to many other Republicans, that a Republican mayor is doing just that, defunding the police.
Anybody else from the community? Yes, sir.
Keep from coughing.
Bill Brilliant, 79 Holly Tree Lane. First, a request to the mayor and maybe to Mr. McGuckin also. So the other night, there was a meeting BASF put on. It was a virtual meeting relative to what is going to happen on the Ciba-Geigy Place property. The second meeting is February 28th, which coincides with a council meeting. I had put a request in that they change that date. It's an in-person meeting at High School North. It'd be great if we can have that meeting changed so that our public officials can make it as well as the public. So if we can do that, that'd be awesome.
We've had this discussion with Ms. Forsberg.
Great, thanks. Okay, couple others. So when you commented before, Mayor, about this ordinance relative to the police department, you had made a comment about 2 captains retiring and about $800,000, which will cover the cost of the CSO. But again, as Mr. Williams pointed out, and also reading through the code, there are 2 other types of police officers that are in that ordinance tonight. So you had said that the cost will be covered by the $800,000 of attrition. Is there more loss at the police department?
Just to be clear, there is no loss at the police department. The CSOs are community service officers. They're part of the police department. So to be clear, we're having retirements at the police department, and we're funding more ambulance drivers who work for the police department. They're boots on the ground. They're people that save lives. Right now, you have people waiting very long time to get emergency medical services, sometimes 30 minutes. We've had a number of very scary incidents. So this is not defunding the police. This is the retirement of 2 senior officers. They're not making calls. They're not coming to your house if there's a situation. The other folks that we're going to be bringing on are going to come to people's homes when they're having a heart attack or they believe that their spouse is undergoing a stroke or someone is choking. These are people that we need. We're tied. We have a $3.5 million budgetary shortfall.
Good.
Okay. It's good. You think it's good to have a $3.5 million?
Understood.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. $3.5 million budgetary shortfall. It will cost approximately $1 million or maybe a little more to put an ambulance on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I do not believe that a public informations officer is more important either than ambulance drivers. So that's part of this. We have a public informations officer here at the township. We could obviously publish those 2 or 3 public relations press releases out of the township. That person is going to work in conjunction with the department to do that. So that's not needed. I was told that there was a retirement by the president of the PBA and that there's another position that he would like to see filled. And I agreed to fill that position once it is through the process. So I had conversations with the PBA and with the FOP. These 2 letters were a surprise brought on today. I had those conversations long in advance of this meeting. I was led to believe that this would be all right. All of a sudden popping a letter on the, that is where we are with this. And if I have to make a choice between rehiring or adding another $250,000 position and health insurance and a $90,000 payment toward the pension for each of these employees, $400,000, or putting 8 EMTs on the street to answer calls when people are dying, frankly. I think the choice is pretty clear. Making those decisions, it's a tough decision to make. But in this circumstance, it's the necessary decision to make. The people elected me to make these tough decisions. Again, they're not easy, but I'm always going to put what's the best interest of the public first. And that's all that I have to say about that, sir.
You can do both. You can save our police department and get CSOs. Just find a way to do it without killing the other.
So just to be clear, Councilman Quinliss, just to be clear, the $3.5 million shortfall,
You haven't even presented a budget yet.
the $3.5 million shortfall is equivalent to 4%. The addition of the CSOs would be equivalent to a 5% tax increase, sir. Are you going to vote to raise taxes 5%? Is that what you're asking me to do?
Not at all, but you haven't presented a budget yet.
I just told you what the shortfall was.
So can I have some
You
of my
have
time?
not presented a budget.
Actually, we should allow the resident to
I appreciate
continue with
this.
their comments.
I appreciate
Go
this.
ahead.
This is great. And so, but it goes back to, you kind of circled back around to the $880,000 or $800,000. But during the answer you gave that you're eliminating other positions in the police department. And so in 18 days, what you said, people have told you to cut the police department. That is what you're hearing. You just said, you've heard the people
No,
tell
I just
you
told you
this
we
is
were
what needs to be
adding.
done.
I just told you we're
No,
adding
no,
8
you're-
people
what
to the
you're-
police department. Adding 8 to replace the retirements. There will be 8 new people
So
within
8
the
new
police
people, and
department.
only 2 people are leaving.
Well,
No,
the other
there's
person
more.
is not an officer.
No, there's more. And you look at, I don't want to go back and forth. Let's
Okay,
just
well,
give me
thank
my,
you. I
give me
don't
my
either.
moment. I appreciate that.
Go ahead,
And
finish up.
Yep, and I think that, you're not being 100% honest. You're basically, you're speaking out of both sides. I know I'm already over my time. I had something else I wanted to say, but you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. I think this is something, again, that needs to be looked at, needs to be studied. You have 2 new letters tonight that basically say, no, we don't agree. Okay? I don't know why. 18 days, we feel like we have to do the world's work. I mean, I know God did his work in 6 days and rested in 7, but you're no God. And it's definitely not going to happen. Why do we have to go so fast? I mean, I've listened tonight to the council, and I really, again, and I've said this to you in an email, you are my mayor. This is my council. This is my town. Okay? And I really hope that at the end of the day, we all can work together and we all can do what's in the best interest of the Township of Toms River. Because otherwise, it ain't going to work. So I heard you tonight, and a lot of people on the council said, I hear what you're saying. I think we should do this, but right now I vote yes or I vote no. Well, 18 days, we are making dramatic changes here.
Because it's a mess. The township's a mess.
I will tell you,
Township's
I've lived in this town
mess.
since I've lived in this town over 35
good.
years, and I'll tell you, there is no better place in the state of New Jersey
Yeah,
to
guess
live.
what?
It is not
Guess
a mess.
what? Yes, well,
I've-
we had people come. You've come to the last meeting. We have people coming and saying there's no ambulances going to their houses.
Yeah, but again,
Excuse me, just a minute, Mr. Williams. Just a minute, Mr. Williams. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. Sir, I think you've made your point. I think you've been very clear. I think everybody understands. I'd like to move on and see if there's anybody else that had comments, to be fair to the rest of the people,
I
okay?
didn't get any additional time because all my time was taken.
Sir, you've
can
made
come
your,
back up,
you've made your point, and I think we got it loud and clear,
But am
okay?
I remember the first meeting, I'm allowed to come back up again, all right?
You've already been back up.
No, that was a different topic. That was a different time. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
All right.
There's a woman in the back.
Hammer the gavel when anybody is interrupting a member of the public.
Just calling somebody.
If they have a question,
Who else wanted to speak? I'm sorry. I saw somebody else that wanted to speak. Yeah, please come forward.
no, when your husband did it, I speak up.
Excuse me. Sir, please, enough. Excuse me. Mr. Williams, enough. You have to give other people a chance to speak, all right? You've had 2 shots so far. This gentleman has had none. Give him a chance.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Ron Sermarini. I'm the president of the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 156. I represent 32 supervisors in the town of River. Can you hear me? Sorry. I represent the 32 police officers in the Township Police Department. I always have and will continue to support the community service officers in our police department. They are an important function that we need every day. I do agree with that. But I do believe that we should consider other ways of funding that program without the expense of losing an officer or a supervisor, leader in the Toms River Police Department. In a day and age where the liability on the officers that go out there every day is never higher, do we really want to take away from the supervisors and the leaders that oversee these officers every day? Especially when you consider a department our size and you look around at the municipalities of comparative sizes. We are not an overstaffed police department. Excuse me. I think you would consider us understaffed. When it comes to our CSOs, they are EMT certified. Some of them are paramedics, but they're not police officers. Yes, they are part of our family. I would say that every day, and I'll repeat that. They are part of our family. But they are not the officers that answer calls. They're not the officers that wear the vest every day and answer every day those calls that come in by the hundreds. When all's said and done, all I'm asking you is to consider funding that program in another way. Thank you for your time.
I think I saw somebody over here that wanted to speak. Is that correct? No? Okay, ma'am, come right ahead.
Deborah Martin, 1921 Ocean Avenue, Ortley Beach. I don't even know where to start. First of all, gentlemen, I want to say that I am one of your biggest supporters. Chief Little knows. Chief Machinardi used to call me, they used to say I was a fan club president. I have utmost respect for you. But I also, in the 25 years I've lived in Ortley Beach, Mr. Chicozzi, trust me, you would never get elected in Ortley Beach. I've had 2 ambulance calls at my house that took over a half hour, and that's when we had a first aid squad. Superstorm Sandy took our first aid squad away. I don't know if everybody in the room is aware that, just as Mr. Lamb said, the Barrier Island, Toms River portion does not have an ambulance squad. Not one single ambulance, except in the summer we were finally fought for from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. So we have to plan our heart attacks and our strokes. Mr. Quinzick, you commented about Triborough First Aid Squad. Justin's been at our meetings. Chief Littles had been at our meetings. Lieutenant Pachonsky's been at our meetings. Every first aid squad is short-handed. Triborough cannot handle us. We have asked them. If you had spoken to Mr. Lamb or Chief Little or Lieutenant Pachonsky, you would know that. Triborough does not want us. They can't help us. Everybody in this room, if your grandmother, mother, father, sister, brother, baby, whatever, needed ambulance, would you want to wait a half hour? I don't think any of you can say yes. I don't know how to handle the difference in the money, but it needs to happen. Along with it, something that hasn't been discussed tonight at all, what are we going to do about our beaches? Since I've been told today the Army Corps does not plan on coming until after next fall. I don't know, have any of you been over to the beach? I live right across the street. I can't get on the beach. Most of Ortley, you cannot get on the entrances. So that's a whole nother big lump of money. But I really hope everybody just works together, tries their best. Mr. Chicozzi, I'm just really upset about that comment about Ortley Beach. I'm really upset. I don't know what your ward is. I don't care where your ward is. We pay some of the highest taxes.
7.38% of the municipal tax comes from Ortley Beach. Thank you.
And I just spoke to Representative Smith's office recently, actually today, because they commented to me about the situation with the beach, because I've been in contact. I mentioned to them that over the last assessment, I went up $3,000 on a condo, from over $8,000 to over $11,000. He cannot understand that. He supposedly has his staff looking into what happened with the assessment. There's people in Ortley Beach paying over $30,000 taxes. So I think we should at least have the ability to have an ambulance.
Nobody argues with having an ambulance. Thank you.
Council President.
Mr. Chacozzi?
I've been to Ortley Beach. I've seen the damages from all these storms so far this winter. And hopefully, there's going to be no more. But the way I see this council now, I was trying to help you guys over there. That, I want to help you, and you got my support. If you want to hook up with Lavalette, or it's been talked, a lot of people, because you've been unhappy with us for over 2 years, and rightly so, and rightly so.
Ma'am, let Mr. Chacozzi finish, and then if you want to come back up, you can answer.
Dave, what are you proposing? I didn't get that. What'd you say?
He's proposing succession.
Oh.
Supporting succession where
Sounds viable.
1% of the town's population is paying, you're saying 10%, that's just Ortley Beach. The beaches are paying probably 25 to 30% of the taxes of the community, and you're proposing that we let them go, or better yet, that we just tell them to go?
Why would we let,
I
why would
think-
they want to stay, I think. They want to stay.
Not only that, it's public comment. I think we should let the
All right,
public
let's
comment.
go on, let's go back to the public comment portion of the meeting,
wanna
please.
stay.
I saw another hand, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, come right forward.
Good evening. My name is Bill Hutton. I live at 3 Pearl Drive in Toms River. I first want to start off congratulations to Roger. With that being said, members of council, I do have some serious questions as far as the movement in the police department. The first and foremost is you are adding 8 CSO programs, CSOs, correct? That is a wonderful, wonderful thing for the community. However, they are not answering calls for emergency services other than first aid calls. You are aware that that's what you're looking at. These 8 spots are taking patrolmen away from the streets. Councilman Lamb, as a sergeant in Lavalette, you're aware of the amount of paperwork that goes along with everything that goes on in police work these days. You're aware of the different forms the state bids. Now, these positions that you're cutting, these people have gone through all these processes, and they're the ones that are teaching the younger generation, future police officers, how to handle those situations. So I guess my question really comes down to is we're going to add our CSOs, which again, they're amazing people. They do amazing things and they save lives. But what are we looking at as far as real cuts to the police department? Can we get an answer with that?
Well, none.
On the patrol level,
None.
on the administrative level?
None. My discussion with the mayor was, and I want to thank Jim Quinslis, he sent me over the efficiency study, and you should look at it from 2021. In fact, Jim, if you have a copy, maybe we can start, sending it around, and you should look at it, because it talks about in 2002 that your staffing levels back then should have been 173, back then.
Yes.
So we need more boots on the ground, and the mayor
100%.
promised me, and he's promised us on council, that we got to work on that. And this is a start. He's only been off, let me finish. He's only been in office for 2 weeks, about 15, 16 days here. This is a big step. Now, I know it does come with a sacrifice, but we've looked at it, and I believe that the mayor spent time with Chief Little, and I think that we are experiencing an issue with no ambulances, especially on the Barrier Island. I know for right now, but let me finish.
My issue is not with the
No,
ambulance.
I know that, but it's about patrol.
My question is when there is a serious emergency in
Right.
town, the ambulance is going to respond second.
Right?
All right? Justin, you don't have children yet. I do. All right? If my 14-year-old is not breathing,
I damn well want one of these guys that are back here
No doubt.
flying to my house
I
and
don't,
getting there first.
you know what my proposal was?
Now, I sure hope that they come with everything, and they have. They've been to several houses in this community.
I told them, let me
Now, the
finish.
first ones there are the police officers, and you know that. You understand that as
Can I
well.
jump in? Yes, yes, the police officers, the guys, the boots on the ground, the officers, the patrolmen. The captain's not coming. The captain's not coming to
They
your
have.
house in that situation. He's not on patrol. He's in management. And personally, at this point in time, I think that Chief Little and one of the captains is sufficient to supervise 6 lieutenants. That would be 1 supervisor per 2 lieutenants. These captains are $240,000 a year. Their pension payments are $90,000, and their health insurance is another $25,000. We all support the police. We all want more police on the streets.
So do it.
We also need ambulance drivers. It is a more desperate need right now. It is not an easy decision. We are not hurting an individual police officer. These folks are respectfully, these folks are retiring.
Sir, you've said the same point over and over.
But you asked the
My
question.
question is now, are you going to keep more police officers? And you keep circling back to, we're going to put community service officers.
We did not lay off a single police officer. One person is retiring, and based on my conversation with the PBA, shortly, we will be hiring another one.
Okay.
Okay, so we had that conversation. I had the conversation too with Ron as well. I understand that there's an outcry of folks in the FOP that I get it. There are people who want to be able to be promoted. I understand that. But the promotions are not more important than having ambulance drivers. Decisions are tough sometimes. Again, it's a $3.5 million shortfall. These 8 CSOs will cost somewhere between $800,000 to $1 million, and we need them now. If we have more money in the future, I'd love to put more police on the ground, and it will be a priority. Right now, the priority is the ambulance drivers.
So your plan, I want to make sure I'm clear, is to replace police officers with...
No, we will add more police officers when we have money. Right now, we have no money, and we need another ambulance. This is not that difficult. This is not that difficult of a decision for me to make. I do recognize that people want to be promoted, but even the lieutenants are at $225,000 a year. When is enough enough? Right now, yes, we could use more police on the ground, but we really need ambulance drivers. People are waiting 30 minutes. This is a life or death thing. If we sat down and we looked at it and we really investigated, how many people do you think we might find that passed because an ambulance didn't get there on time? I mean,
Very few.
Really?
I would say yes.
How would we know that?
Because, Mr. Roderick, I'm a first responder. I worked these shifts for years.
I
am a police officer in Toms River as well.
You're a patrolman?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
I have done,
Thank you for your service.
I have done CPR on numerous people.
Thank you for your service.
As all of these other men and women behind me. And the issue is, yes, do we need CSOs? Absolutely. They are more highly trained than I am. But the ultimate question is, the community itself needs the police officers more than they need the CSOs. Because I can do CPR for 10 minutes. These gentlemen can do CPR for 10 and 20 minutes. You're talking about a Lucas device that will do the CPR for you, while I use a BVM.
All of that's fantastic, and we
So
applaud
that's
all your
what we
efforts
need
and
to do.
appreciate everything that each of you guys do. All right? There's a police officer who's retiring. There's another situation that's going on that will result in us hiring another officer. There won't be any change in the number of police officers right now that are on the ground. And when we have money and can invest in more first responders, more police, we would do so. Right now, the priority is getting more ambulances. And I'm sorry that it'll impact some folks' promotions. I'm sorry that it may impact the number of people that a supervisor has to supervise. But at the end of the day, what we're asking is the chief and the deputy chief to supervise 6 lieutenants. That would be about 3 people each. So this is not like we're asking you to supervise 20 or 30. We're asking the chief and the deputy chief to supervise 6 people. I think that they are very capable of doing that, and I really believe that we need ambulance drivers. And thank you very much for all your service. And like I said, this is not an easy decision.
Unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, I respectfully disagree, but again, thank you for your time, man.
Ma'am?
The other ma'am never had a chance.
Klaslow, Ortley Beach. This will be very quick with respect to the amount of money that goes from Ortley Beach to Toms River. In the past, everybody kept saying, oh, we give 25%, we give 25%. Last year, the head of the council, the director of public works, and the tax assessor got on a three-way conference call with me, or four-way, and sat down and discussed it. Ortley gives about 8% to Toms River. Now, it may not sound like a lot, but if you drop 8% from Toms River's rolls, if you think you have problems now, you're going to have a lot more later on.
Ma'am?
64.
Could you say that again a little louder, please?
Kim Bell, 64 Beerus Lane, Toms River, New Jersey. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
keep this brief. It's past my bedtime, so hopefully it makes sense. I just want to close in reference to the MCCUO. The reason that we became so vocal, including myself, I was one of the first, or actually my client was. I don't care where I sell houses. I could sell them anywhere. I love Toms River. I live in Toms River, and I do like to sell houses in Toms River, but my client was, I think, the third inspection, and it was very problematic when it first rolled out, as admitted by the former administration, and it cost him like $15,000. He had lived here for 30 years, put his kids through the school system, very loyal to the town, loved the town. He unfortunately had to pay the price that was done for something that was done 30 years prior to his home ownership. That's why we became so vocal. Now, I myself, you know, realtors that are seasoned, we do check for open permits. Lacey Township, you do have to have a letter of no interest. Maybe you could do that, showing that there are no open permits. Perfect. See, I know to check for that, but I do know a lot of people don't. I don't go into a house without a home inspector. It's $400, $500, $600. They're licensed, they're insured, continuing education, no conflicts of interest. They're afraid of getting sued, so everything. Oh, the heat looks okay, but refer to a licensed heat person. Oh, the hot water heater looks okay, but refer to a licensed plumber, you know? So the only time that I don't do that is if it's an investor. So, you know, hopefully going forward, I just wanted to get that out there and clear the air. I mean, I'm sure you're not personally trying to pick people's pockets, but if you, and I understand, you know, people do illegal things. I go into a listing in Ortley Beach. If I see that there's a bathroom below flood, I say, hey, listen, get rid of this before we list the house. This isn't legal. And, you know, you take it from there. During attorney review, attorneys like Mr. Lamb, they ask, have there been permits for all work done? I'm smart enough to know if I see a finished basement or I see a converted garage, hey, when we do the OPA request, let's make sure there are permits pulled. I mean, it's just a matter of hiring the right person. Admittedly, the gentleman in the red shirt who left earlier lives in Ortley, and he said, you know, my neighbor, he threw a bathroom in. Oh, the neighbor's words, as soon as I have my CO, then I'm gonna get the bathroom. The neighbor who did the third floor converted room, as soon as I have the CO, I'm gonna convert the room. So getting the CO, I understand those are problematic things, but having this MCCUO wasn't gonna save that. You could close on a house tomorrow, and we don't know what people are doing in their basement after the fact once the CO is issued. So you have to come up with some other kind of remedy to get rid of that. Like the other woman mentioned earlier, now I don't know because I don't pull the town on people. I work a lot and I mind my business. But apparently, I guess if you call to see something, say something, you have to say your name. So I would understand that that would prohibit people from wanting to call the neighbor with the illegal third room or illegal basement or whatever the case may be. So maybe look into getting rid of that. That's it. Have a good night.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jillian Messina, Opetuck Court in Toms River. Do any of you know who I am? Thank you. I am the media relations specialist at the Toms River Police Department. And some of my tasks throughout the day, well, first of all, I work about 60 hours a week. I get paid for 40, but I love my job so much that it's worth it to me. I have spent, yesterday was my 7-year anniversary with the police department. I am so blessed to highlight the things every day that these men and women, from our officers to our administrators to our employees, civilian, CSOs, every single member of our department is a family. And I am so blessed and lucky to have the job to communicate that to our township. I have spent 7 years building relationships with this community, getting information to this community, building great networking with this community. I don't know if you're aware, but, and I apologize, I'm going to talk directly to Mr. Mayor, but I have helped raise over $600,000 along with the foundation and the PBA for our police department so that you don't have to find that money for things. I'm proud of that. I've paid for my salary quite a few times, sir. But what I will say is that relationships with the community are important. And every single person in this police department deserves the opportunity to have those relationships for their safety and for your safety. Because the better the relationships that we have with the township and with the community, the safer they are and the safer you are. And when we have had incidents, our residents have had our back because of this. And if you would like to take 2 captains away, I challenge you to tell me what their daily jobs are, what their tasks are, how many people they supervise, and what they do. Because Ms. O'Toole, you said something earlier that really resonated with me, and I thought about it, and I sat back there and I said, wow, she's right. You said that this young woman listens to the older community and the experience that they have to offer. If you take 2 captains away who have the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom to give to our young officers, who are you serving? I have worked to get grants. I don't know if any of you are aware, but there are tons and tons of community policing and policing grants. So I urge you, before 2 weeks, when you have the second reading, I urge every one of you to look up the amount of grants. You have a shortfall, don't hurt the CSOs. They are amazing and they are important and they are part of our family. But don't hurt the captains and the new hirees. Find a grant and find the money, because it's out there. You have a $3 million shortfall? Let's see how much money you can fill that in with grants. Take a break. There's no reason to rush this. There's no reason to rush this. I'm begging you to take a minute and look at all that we have done. We have had other police departments come to ours and model our agency and our TO, which is a table of organization. And they do it after us because we are so efficient. In the time that I'm there, when we do have people retire, that the positions, can be civilianized, they are. We are so responsible. Read that efficiency study. Just read it. Find out what we do. And in that study are some of my tasks. You'll see that I'm underpaid, and I don't care because I love it. I love this town. I will do anything for it. And you can get rid of my position, Mr. Roderick, but you can't get rid of me because I love this department.
Okay, is there anyone else who would wish to speak? Sir? Yes.
Normally don't make a habit of coming up during public time to
Sir,
speak.
could you say your name and address, please?
I'm sorry. Joe Coco, 161 Walnut Creek Lane, Toms River, and Silverton. And as I said, I usually don't make a habit of coming up during the public time. I leave it for the residents. But a lot's been said tonight. A lot of things have come up. A lot of good things have come up on, on all ends. And I've been in this town since 1965, 10 years old. I moved here. Since that time, I've been involved in every part of 33 Washington Street, every part of something that goes on in town, whether it's recreation, scouts, police department, EMS. I'm an EMT. I stood here at this very mic, well, maybe not the same mic, but 25 years ago. And the reason I was here 25 years ago was because at that time we had 6 volunteer squads in this town. And every time you turned around, you saw an ambulance going back and forth from every one of those squads. You all can see what happened within that 25 years, almost 25 years. We don't have that. So yes, there is a definite need. And again, the other thing is, some other towns will come in for mutual aid, but you know what? It's to another town's advantage to come in here because they're making money on our residents, okay? Or our residents' insurance companies. They get paid. There's not a lot of volunteer squads still out. We still have some hanging on to help us out a little bit. So that need is there. I've seen the CSOs be like yo-yos back and forth, okay? At one time, they were under the police department. Then they went under administration, and I think back to the police. They're in the right spot. They're in the right spot, and they are in the right spot for, command and control and what they're doing. I understand what the mayor is doing. I've, had some time to talk to him. Again, I don't say I agree with the mayor or disagree or anything else, okay? But those men and women standing back here, and it was hard to come up here after Jillian, believe me. But again, those men out and women out there, should have seen them during Sandy. Well, I had damages during Sandy. At the same time, I was working OEM, so I had to work with every one of them. But again, that is all good. What I do want to say as far as the CSOs, and this, an area maybe I can help you with or not, okay? The CSOs, we could be that town making the money. Once, we take a good hard look at the number that we have on the road, what the expenses are, at some point, that money could be, could come here into this town. And obviously go into the police department because it's under the police department. So, that can be done. And I know, Mayor, you do ask questions, so I know you've asked a lot of different people about that. There's a lot out there. There were some people last year sitting right up here that could have done just that, and they didn't. So, again, think about that. Like I said, if we have to have other people come in. Triborough, again, being one of them. Triborough is a paid squad now, for the most part. And that's, but they also have their hands full on the beach in the summertime. So I am all for a beach, squad on the beach. Again, that's it. The other thing where I want to help you for, and I'd like to be on this task force, all right? I was proud, I retired from the U.S. government, from U.S. Army as a civilian at Fort Monmouth. I was a facility engineer. So I was in and out of all kind of buildings and houses and what have you. But when I came and got done, I put 8.5 years in here at code enforcement. And I was proud of that 8.5 years. And I retired with mixed emotions. That's how this came about. My back was not ready to continue with that. But I'm still here. And I served on the Disabilities Committee. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of good that's being done by people in this town around. And, I do want to say that that whole group behind me, way in the back there, they are the best. They are the boots in the ground. And that they came through last year when we had nobody almost to staff those ambulances. And they came through. So we did have officers on those ambulances last year. We had dispatchers on those ambulances. Do I get another minute? Okay.
Do you have some main point you want to state, sir?
Okay, yes, my main point basically is what I'm saying. I would like to offer my services at no cost and my experience here in the Township of Toms River to help with that risk management and to help and see what can be done as far as getting EMTs out here, and at the same time being able to keep monies in the police department and working with what we can. So that's my offer to you.
Thank you very much, sir.
And now, I know it's a public meeting, I know it's on the air, but anybody tells my wife, they just don't tell her.
All right, thank you again.
Okay.
I'm going to have to cut you off.
Thank
okay?
you, I'm cut.
All right, thank you.
Everybody has to cut me off. Anybody that knows me, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Jason Bukowski, Fountain Drive, Deer Hollow Estates. I'm a resident of Toms River since 1981. Became an EMT in 1991.
Sir, can you talk more direct into the microphone so people can hear you? Thank you.
Became an EMT in 1991 and rode with Toms River First Aid Squad. Mr. Rankin was on the council at that point in time. In 1999, I became a nationally registered EMT, P, as well as a New Jersey MICP. And I will say, in my time served as a first responder, ambulance driver is a derogatory term, and it's nobody's fault to know that, but highly insulting to call a certified EMT an ambulance driver. CSO, anything other than that. In my time, the biggest complaint was always our numbers. It's always, there's never enough. There's never enough EMTs. It's a loser. Every ambulance company has gone under. Alert, Monarch, the Life Paramedic Program, because there's no money to be made in it. So yes, the town should 100% put on EMTs. But I keep hearing from the council that there was great research done in this. And I would like to know, what governing agency did you use to determine, and again, I'm not expecting you tonight, it's not a gotcha question, to determine how many ambulance you need per 100,000? Do we use a governing agency?
Actually, I think what the folks on council were referencing was a study commissioned by Mayor Hill. It was an efficiency study. It did not really pertain to the number of ambulances we would need. I simply feel, and members of council and members of the public feel, that we need more ambulances. Also, I know the folks that are members of the CSO program talk about how they need more drivers, that they're just being pulled in all different directions. So there is no actual study that says
the
we...
WHO, the World Health Organization, which I think is a garbage organization, but unfortunately they have statistics for that. Do we look that up, and does anyone know on the council? Again, you can see as a citizen from...
So you're saying we may need more than 8?
No, it's 1 per 100,000 from the WHO, which I disagree with. It's a garbage organization, and I told you, as an EMT, I say we need more. But that's the governing. So if we meet 1 ambulance per 100,000 residents, we've met the responsibility there. Do we know what the FBI number is per 1,000 residents for police officers? Again, as a resident and the taxpayer in the town, that's frustrating to me that nobody knows that. It's 2.4 per 1,000. Now, that's over 100,000. So you can say, well, Toms River is less, and that would fall into 17 per 10,000, which would come out to that 170,000 mark. So by the organizations that do it, now granted, we're doing FBI, which I'll go off on them too and tell you what a garbage organization that is, but those are the statistics we have to deal with. The FBI puts out numbers, the World Health Organization puts out numbers. As an EMT, put on 20 more. That would be great. I 100% support that. But as far as the agencies that monitor this, we meet the standard right now for it.
The only thing that I would like to,
We are grossly under on the police side, and that's a problem. We can't, the FBI says we're under, the World Health Organization says we're over. Thank you for your time today, sir.
again, I would just like to reiterate, if it's all right with Council President, that these are captain's positions. These folks are retiring already. It would leave the chief and one captain supervising 6 lieutenants. That would be 1 supervisor per 3 employees. We do need the EMTs. Our entire population, it's very heavy senior citizen. We have more retirement communities than any other township, us and Brick, and they need the services.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Williams? Try to make it brief because it's getting late.
Thank you, Council President. Again, Paul Williams, Broad Street, Toms River. I just wanted to be clear again about something that I had said earlier about the way that the ordinance is written. The ordinance, as it's written, that you all voted to approve and go on to the second reading, does not specify what amendments, what changes are going to be into that. And I pointed out to you that according to the code, the sections referenced in there pertain to the positions for captain. And according to code, the Toms River Municipal Code, there are 3 captain of police and deputy police chief, a total of 3. Then there is G, police officers, 113. 113 positions for police officers. And then the last one was R, confidential media relations specialist. There's 1. And the point that I want to make in bringing this to your attention very clearly is that the ordinance that you voted on tonight, particularly with regard to the captain and the police officers, it does not specify how you are going to amend the code that I just read to you. In other words, every one of these brave men and women in the back of the Toms River Township Police Department, any one of them, any number, could potentially be on the chopping block. The only assurances what we have is lip service tonight about what may or may not, and there's only the constant conversation about the captains, no conversations about these men and women in the back, these line officers, the ones who actually respond to incidences first. Okay? None of it in the ordinance that you approved this evening was specific. And for that reason, you may have opened a Pandora's box that I don't believe that any of, particularly the new council members, anticipated, because it wasn't specific. And Council President, I must remind you that the agenda is put together by you, sir. The agenda is your responsibility as the Council President. And if you don't know about it, the next time it comes up, double check. Double check, because it's on you that people are going to talk about when there's something on the agenda that don't smell right. I only offer that as a suggestion, sir. Last thing, and I'll be very, very brief. Last thing. My time in prison was extensive. But while there, I was a prisoner advocate. I was the one who spoke up for prisoners who were facing disciplinary meetings. And in that regard, I learned the organizational chart. I knew whose responsibility was what.
Mr. Williams, I'm going to interrupt because right now you're going off on a bit of a tangent, and I respect what you're saying, but you are going off on a tangent, and I don't think that what you're going to tell us right now has any direct impact on what we're doing here tonight. So I would like you to please end the conversation. These people have been very patient. They've listened to you a couple of times. Please, let's conclude this so people can get home and get some rest, please.
Just 2 sentences. Number one, I have full faith and confidence in our chief. And there's no way Phil Stilton, the municipal public information officer, is going to be able to do what this person does, Jillian Messina. He can't do what she has done in the years that she's been there. I ask you to take that into consideration.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir?
Mayor Roderick,
Excuse me, your name and address, please.
Township Council. My name is Ted Maloney. I live at 1442 Sequoia Circle. Throughout the night, we've had several conversations about replacing the police and whether or not this was a defund the police matter or if we're just not replacing 2 captains. So the way it works is usually there's a trickle-down effect when you have retirements. If you have one retirement and you don't replace that officer, then you're essentially losing a patrol officer because everybody goes up 1 notch. So you take someone who's unemployed, you bring them on, patrol officer makes sergeant, sergeant makes lieutenant, and so on. Now, I know of 3 retirements coming up in our police department. And Mayor Roderick, I do know, I overheard you say that you assured our chief that you were going to replace one of the retiring officers with a patrol officer, correct?
The conversation I was discussing, or that I mentioned, had to do with the PBA president.
Okay.
And for reasons that are legal and confidential, I can't really elaborate on when we'll be hiring the next police officer, but it's on deck. As far as the captains, I do disagree that we're taking someone off the street by eliminating the position by attrition. No one moves up, and therefore the officers stay on the street. When they move up, if you don't replace them at the bottom, then you lose an officer on the street. But if someone retires, a captain, and again, I just want to repeat in reference to Mr. Williams' comments that I do think the chief does an excellent job, so does the deputy chief, and I have the full confidence that the 2 of them are capable of supervising 6 lieutenants. That would be 3 each. But I disagree with the premise that eliminating captain eliminates an officer. It's completely the opposite. If you didn't backfill an officer and you left the captain, you'd be short a police officer. But people from the PBA don't move to the FOP unless a sergeant position opens. Eliminating the captain's position leaves those positions on the table. Those sergeants and lieutenants do most of the management and most of the work. And I'm not saying the captains don't, but like I said, I do believe in this circumstance, we owe it to the people to be able to provide emergency medical services, and we have to do it with the monies that we have. We're facing a budgetary shortfall. I'll repeat again, I support the police. I support everything that they do. I do not believe that this takes an officer off the street. I believe it's the opposite. Again, there's the elimination of 2 management positions. But again, having 4 people supervise 6 people is unheard of. And in this situation, waiting 30 minutes for an ambulance is also unheard of, respectfully.
Yes, sir, I completely agree with that. And that should never happen. And there's not a police officer in this room or in my building, I probably would say any agency in America that does not stand behind CSOs and EMTs. Since you've brought that up, though, you're adding 8 more employees to the police department. They're not police officers, but the CSO program falls directly under the police department.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 8 more people that need to be supervised.
They're supervised by a civilian right now. I'm sure you're aware of that. You're there.
Yes, I am, sir.
So they're not supervised by a captain, they're supervised by a civilian.
That civilian supervisor is supervised by a police officer.
Okay, but he's not supervised by a captain. The table of organization currently has 3 captains, again at $242,000, supervising 6 lieutenants. And I didn't really want to get into all of these details, but if the public is aware of that, I don't think I think they will support what I'm doing, and I wish that you guys would as well. It's really a matter of public safety. Like I said, the council and myself, we really appreciate everything that you guys do. It's a tough choice. We want you to be able to be promoted. We want you to get paid well. You are paid well. We want to continue to pay you well. In this situation, we need EMTs, and we need them yesterday. So I'm sorry that some folks might not get promoted as a result of this, but I do not believe we will be failing in terms of supervising, because I have full faith and confidence that the captain and the deputy chief, and you could extend your time if it's up to the council president, but I'm sure he will. I believe that the chief and the deputy chief are perfectly capable of supervising 6 men. And again, that's my position, but this does not take a cop off the street. And when we have the finances and the town is back to a balanced budget, we will look to increase the number of officers on the ground. Right now, this comes first.
Sir, can I have another minute?
Yes, sir.
You could
Okay,
have, you could have 5.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate how cordial you're being. The only thing I must warn is there is something in management called span of control. Okay, we have, as of right now, I believe our TO is 162. But however, we do have about 35 Class 3 police officers. We have about another 20 Class 1 and 2 officers. We have park security officers. Now we have what's becoming an even larger CSO program. Those captains do not only supervise our lieutenants. They are in charge of budgeting. They're in charge of our finances, our purchasing. They're what makes the world go round. They really are. And I do think, obviously, patrol comes first. But once you take away the span of control and you add more responsibilities to everyone, it becomes an enormous liability. And that's when you get yourself into quite a quagmire.
And you're right, there is something called span of control. And the federal government recommends 5-to-1. 5-to-1, and it would work through the pyramid at 5-to-1 based on their recommendation. And we're about 3-to-1 through the whole department. The sergeants are the most overworked.
Yes.
They are 5-to-1. And frankly, we could probably use more sergeants and more officers on the ground. Right now, we have a desperate need for these EMTs. This is the way we can pay for it. Again, I'm very sorry that some folks might not get a promotion.
So I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. We're having a conversation. It's fine.
It's not about a promotion. What my fear is, as a lifelong township resident who's raising his family here, my fear is that this is a slippery slope. There's always going to be something we need money for, and the public safety budget in every municipality across the country is the largest. It's easy to pull from it. Oh, we don't need this because we can just reallocate it over here. All right, and you're basically going to start robbing Peter to pay Paul.
But it's public safety. We're going from one area of public safety to another. It stays within the police department, and it brings in 8 people. 8 people who are in contact with the public, rescuing them, right? So this is a tough decision.
But I'll tell you what, I want to just jump into. I was shocked by that efficiency study, where in 2002 we should have had 173. Now, Chief Little wasn't the chief at that time. I'm shocked that during 2002 through arguably Sandy, that nothing was done about that. Nothing was done. Let me finish, Jim. Nothing was done about that. And I'm really concerned. I told the mayor that while this is concerning, it's a tough cross to bear. I also suggested about a plan, talking to the unions about having officers. You have to incentivize, because it's important. It's a lot of work to get that EMT certification. But make sure if these officers want to go out and do it, you let them cover these ambulance shifts, and for, again, overtime or overtime, but any way to cover it, because it has to be covered, and we need more coverage, and that's how I feel about it.
And I did make that offer to the PBA, the FOP, and the chief of police. I offered to compensate police officers with overtime during their regular shift. Maybe people in management, people that were, let's say, lieutenants or sergeants or captains, that if they had their EMT, I'd be willing to pay them overtime during their regular shift to just hop on an EMT, to just hop on an ambulance. And at first, we were told yes. I spoke to both presidents of the unions. They liked the idea, but then we've come to find that the folks don't have the EMT anymore. So it's not something that we can do immediately, but that was my initial attempt to fix this, was to give your guys overtime, give you more money. Because frankly, even paying an extra $500 a day, if you pick up and answer an insurance call, you pay for your shift with one insurance call. So it works out. But you don't have your EMT certs, according to the chief. Maybe that's something that we can incentivize as well. But again, we need an immediate response to an immediate need. And I apologize that there are folks that are not going to get promoted.
I'm going to discontinue this discussion. We're going to have a public hearing on this at the end of the month at our meeting on the 31st. So this has been hashed out very well tonight. I think we all understand what the issues are, and I'd like to move on from that. Does anybody have any other comments for another topic? If not, then I'm sorry. I'll guess. Third time up. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to make it very brief. You've had 2 times up here already.
Laszlo, Wortley Beach. You keep saying you don't have money and you got to let these people go. Why are we hiring 2 new people for the MUA?
Going back to the MUA, if I may, Council President, the MUA is not a hire. It's a statutory requirement currently in our ordinance that the people get appointed to the Municipal Utilities Authority. It's not a job. It's my understanding that the MUA, they do give themselves health insurance. That is a cost, but right now it's in the ordinance for a very long time. It's an established authority. It's not a job. And again, we're not letting anyone go. They're retiring. There are folks retiring, and we're using that money to hire ambulance drivers. So no one has been let go except for the public informations officer, which is a civilian position that writes press releases for the chief, but we have someone at the township that does that as well, so we're going to just consolidate that. So I hope that answers your question.
I just think that there's so many people in the MUA, so.
Yeah, it's required, 5, it's required.
Okay. Anyone else with a different topic? If not, then I'd like to have a motion to, I'm sorry, didn't see your hand.
I have to circle back to the same topic, and I know you want to table it. Just give me 1 minute.
Can you please say your name and address?
My name is Anthony Bashuler.
Thank you.
Patrolman with the Toms River Police, but I'm also the Vice President, PBA 137.
Okay.
Toms River Police. So I just have to address one quick inaccuracy that was stated here tonight. There's 2 letters drafted, one from the FOP, one from the PBA, against this agenda here. And there was something stated that said that this was a surprise. Both of these letters were a surprise to the mayor. That's inaccurate. Now, I can't speak for somebody else, but I have counseled with President Kenny Thomas, which is president of the PBA 137. And I can tell you this, that the PBA has been staunchly against this proposal from the very beginning. And these letters should have never came as any sort of surprise, period.
I don't have the letter, but Mr. Quinless does.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sir, a different topic, I hope? No. Okay.
My name is Andrew Chincharik. I'm a sergeant with the Township Police Department. Mr. Mayor, newly elected councilman, I want to congratulate you on your election, but I would like to ask you guys, since you've been elected, how many times have you come into our police department to look what we actually do? How many times have you reached out and came and saw what a captain does? How many people out here have gotten a firearm permit? Right?
Sir, please just address the council, please.
All right.
Thank you.
Firearm permits. That wouldn't get done if we don't have a captain, right? There's numerous functions of the police department that you guys just think that 3 captains supervise 6, we actually have 7 lieutenants, and it goes from, it's a pyramid, it goes all the way down. So the captain's got his span of control goes all the way down. And I think that your span of control facts that you're giving us are incorrect, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about that. But I just encourage you guys, please, come to our police department, see what's actually done before you start cutting positions. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Same topic. Brian Doyle, Palmetto Drive. I'm also a sergeant with the Toms River Police Department. And I'm just going to kind of go on what Sergeant Jancharik just said. Besides just coming to the police department, have you looked around at surrounding towns? Okay. Brick Township Police Department, slightly smaller, 146 officers. They have a chief, a deputy chief, and 3 captains. Okay, Lakewood Police Department, 170 officers, a little bit bigger, a chief and 4 captains. Manchester Police Department right next door, half our size, 80-man department, a chief and 2 captains. So why do you guys think that we deserve less than that? Okay, to have a properly, I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit nervous, but you have to have a properly supervised department to have it run efficiently, safely, and properly. Thank you.
I see no other hands, so I'm going to ask, oh, sorry, sir. You're okay because the pumpkin doesn't get here until midnight, so you're all right.
I could dance till midnight. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christopher Anderson. I'm from Baywood Drive in Toms River in Silverton. Congratulations to Mr. Dan Roderick. Mayor, appreciate you and congratulate you on your new term. Mr. Lamb, congratulations for your service as well. I'm 51 years old. I'm born and raised in Toms River. I've probably been here longer than most of you, but certainly not all. I'm raising my family in Silverton and Mr. Roderick's ward, former ward, and also been a police officer for nearly 30 years. One thing that I like to encourage the council is to use expanded thinking, because not only being an administrator in the police department, you're now administrators of our township. So it's important that we open our eyes, look for new ideas, invent new ways to find funds, and to drive our department into the future. We may introduce 1 ambulance now, but as everyone said, our township is continuing to grow. So we're going to have this conversation 2 or 3 years from now. Mr. Roderick, I know you frequent Southwest Florida as well as I do. As we look at the great Republican state of Florida, we do see alternate means of service and hybrid services. I respect your idea of putting a police officer in an ambulance because it introduces new thinking, and I respect that. But when we look at the state of Florida, particularly Southwest, we see the fire department operating ambulances with EMTs.
It's a great idea, too.
Yeah, so these are just extra ideas that, you know, we can probably consider. We've heard first responders talk tonight. We heard police, we heard EMTs, we heard paramedics. I did not hear anybody mention fire department. I know we pay our taxes to a different commission, but it's time to empower our township, our police chief, our governing body to form a summit. And Mr. Navison, you mentioned the very strong words of forming a task force to look over building inspections. There's no reason why we can't form a task force to find solutions to outfit ambulances and to also save our jobs at the police department. Thank you.
My name is Michael Beller. I am the first captain that is retiring here in February in 2 weeks. I'm the administrative captain, and yes, I have 2 lieutenants that report directly to me. I have several civilian employees. But I am also responsible for our entire jail, all Class 1s, 2s, and 3 officers, our SROs, the CSOs. That's a lot. And now to dump that onto Deputy Chief Delane or the chief
is ridiculous. All those people, I can delegate my authority, but I'm still responsible for all those people. And that's probably 150 or so, at least, employees that I'm still ultimately responsible for. So to say that it's just a couple lieutenants is absolutely incorrect. The other thing I'd like to say is anything going to be done about Silverton First Aid Squad and the thousands of calls they take every year from the CSOs?
Well, I think it's safe to say that if we had more ambulances on the road from the township, that we would pick up more calls.
Yeah, but
Right,
there is a
so-
contract that is in place that has never been signed. It was put in place several years
There's
ago, and
a
then
le-
it's kind of rolled over.
As I'm sure you're aware, it's a legal matter, and I can't discuss anything further. But as you know, I'm a staunch advocate of making sure that our CSO program is properly staffed and is taking care of our residents. I can't discuss the Silverton EMS thing at this time. Like I said, it's a legal matter.
Okay, that is something that is taking thousands and thousands of dollars.
Well, as you know,
from the CSO program.
former Mayor Tom Kelleher put out a letter to the entire community about it. It's something that we are reviewing again right now, and I can't really comment much on it.
Okay, the other thing I want to address is that you said something about having police officers, you wanted to have police officers, EMTs, to ride the rigs. We did that last couple of years now, we've done that with our dispatchers and had to stop doing that because the CFO and the previous business administrator said that it was costing us too much to do that. So those people are making a lot less money in their overtime rates than the police officers are, and we couldn't do it then. So why could we then now do it all of a sudden with police officers?
Well, Captain Miller, I think you understand then what I'm trying to do. Yes? Do you? I'm trying to add CSOs
Okay, well,
so that we can answer those calls, so that we can safely get people to hospitals, and that we collect the insurance money. That is a service that is frankly a service that the town has a right to render. And if a private entity is giving that service, it's supposed to be bid. Tom Kelleher put out a letter about that. Nothing was done. Again, this is a legal matter, and I really shouldn't discuss it.
the other issue I just want to address is I don't know if any of the early people are still here. They talked about long wait times for ambulances. And it's true that the ambulances are covering a lot of we have 41 square miles that we have ambulances that are covering. And CSOs, maybe only a couple rigs on. Silverton usually has 1 to 2 rigs on. And we have repeatedly tried this past year policy that I wrote within the last 2 years that when there's no ambulances available on the beach, we would have a mainland ambulance stationed down at the base of the bridge. Silverton refuses to do that. Okay, they refuse to come central when we have no rigs available anywhere in town. Our general practice is we're gonna have an ambulance come hang central in our town, whether that be 37 in Hooper or at our headquarters, so they can easily get to any part of town. Silverton again refuses to do that, and they repeatedly refuse to do that.
EMS is a top priority. I've been in discussions with the president of their association as well as other CSOs. All of these issues that you brought to light here at this meeting are going to be rectified.
I hope so, and I hope everybody remembers those issues. Those are the issues with the ambulances and coverage. Thank you.
Well, I see no other hands, so I'm going to ask if we could have a vote to adjourn the public portion of this meeting.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not aware of any reason for executive session, so.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
There is a motion to adjourn the meeting. May I have a second? Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, folks.